Chapter 1897. Chapter 1909. News of Pangolin. The next morning, Lin Yi drove Meng Yao and Yushu to school. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't have much to do. Medicine majors didn't have to participate in the student council election, and the class president of the major had to be a member of the school's student council. As for the faculty student council, he could get a position there anyways, so he didn't have to worry about the election at all. That was the benefit of being a minor. The other majors, on the other hand, had to participate in the election if they wanted to enter the student council or faculty student council. After all, there was a limit to the number of people in each major. Meng Yao and Yushu went to participate in the election, and Lin Yi went back to the dorm with nothing to do. He knew that the three perverts would ask him some questions, but Lin didn't think that he'd be surrounded the moment he entered the room. "I say, Linny boss, that's not very nice of you. Was that your girlfriend looking for you yesterday? You're living with her? And you lied to us that you're staying with your relative?" Song Xiaodao started yelling when he saw Lin Yi enter the room. "Big bro Lin, you're amazing. I always thought that Wang Xinyan was your girlfriend, but now it seems that your girlfriend isn't worse than Wang Xinyan at all." Bai Weitua said, "I think that this year's school beauty ranking is also on it." "School beauty list? What's that?" Lin Yi asked. "Oh, it's just some students who have nothing better to do at school. And the department's QQ group have selected the freshman campus bell list. There is information and a brief introduction for us boys to refer to." Bai Weitua said, "There's one every year. It's become a habit of our school. Right? Don't change the subject. Which one of them is your girlfriend?" "Neither." Lin Yi shook his head. "Neither?" Bai Weitua paused, and Song Xiaodao and Zhao Xingji looked at him in disbelief. "How is that possible?" I'm not lying. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "A relative of mine asked me to take care of them. We're from the same city, so we're quite familiar with each other. I'm basically their follower." Lin Yi added inwardly, she was his follower. "Lackey? No way." Bai Weitua's eyes widened. "Big brother Lin, you're not lying? Why would I lie to you? Yes means yes, no means no. Do you think I'd go to Wang Xinyan's place instead of hanging out with her if she really was my girlfriend?" Lin Yi shrugged with a bitter smile. "That's true. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't do that." Bai Weitua nodded. Zhao Xingji and Song Xiaodao believed what Lin Yi was saying, but they were still a little suspicious of Lin Yi's relationship with either Meng Yao, Yushu, or Xinyan. "What's the plan for today?" Lin Yi interrupted everyone's guesses and asked. "Today, our department has nothing to do. Xiao Dao and Xingji said that they want to go shopping. They are all foreigners and have never been here before. I was just about to bring them around. Brother Lin, are you going too?" Bai Weitua asked. "Sure, let's go together then." Lin said. But Huaijuan's call came just as Lin Yi finished his sentence. "Jun bro," Lin Yi picked up. "Why are you still calling me brother? Lingshan, Yutian, and the others are calling you boss already. I'll go back to calling you boss. You're our captain in the first place, our boss." Huaijuan said. "Up to you. What's up?" Lin Yi knew that as his strength increased, the people around him would return to their original state. "Where are you?" "I have something to discuss with you. It's about House Yu and the drug gang," Huaijuan said. "Before House Yu fell, it was a bit troublesome to investigate, but it's much easier now. We got some information. All right, where are you? I'll come find you immediately." Armadillo's smiling face appeared in Lin Yi's mind, and then it turned into Ziyu. Lin Yi clenched his fist as he asked faintly. No matter who it was, if they touched someone close to Lin Yi wouldn't let them go unscathed. This was Lin Yi's personality. "I'm in Donghai. Right, I didn't tell you yet, I got a promotion. I solved a big case a while back, so I got transferred to Donghai. I'm now the vice director here. My position hasn't changed, but this is the provincial capital, so I'm half a rank higher," Huaijuan said. "You're still in Songshan? I'll drive back to find you? You're in Donghai?" Lin Yi's expression was a bit weird, but he smiled. "I'm in Donghai right now, Donghai Industry University. I just came here to report." "Huh? No way, you're in Donghai too? That's great. I was a bit depressed about not being able to see you often, but now it's great. Huai Juan said. Yeah, you're at the police station? I don't know the way. Lin Yi was new to Donghai, and he was completely clueless. Wait for me at the school gate, I'll pick you up in 15 minutes. Huai Juan said. Alright, see you later. Lin Yi agreed before turning to Bai Weiduo and the others apologetically. I'm sorry, an old friend came looking for me. I'm afraid I can't go shopping with you guys. No way, Lin bro, you have so many things to do here in Donghai? Bai Weiduo was a bit disappointed. Is it a guy or a girl? A guy, it's a guy this time. Lin Yi sweated. Let's go together if you don't believe me. Perfect, let's go together. But Lin bro, we're not spying on you. Bai Weiduo said quickly. Lin Yi smiled helplessly. Of course we're not spying on him, weren't you guys just curious? But the three didn't see anyone special at the school gate, and there weren't any beauties either. They lost interest and went to a nearby bus stop after saying goodbye to Lin Yi. Lin Yi stood in front of the school gate, and an Audi stopped in front of Lin Yi. Huai Juan got out of the car and waved at Lin Yi. Boss. Junzi. Lin Yi wanted to call him Jun bro, but remembered that Lin Yi called him boss, so he decided to call him Huai Juan's nickname instead. It's still as sweet as ever. People would think I don't know the rules if they heard you call me Jun bro. Huai Juan said with a sigh of relief. Let's not talk about that. Any news on Armadillo? Lin Yi opened the car door and sat in the passenger seat. Not bad, Audi A6, but a little old. Chapter 1898. You know I don't care about that. Huai Juan shook his head. I don't have any news about Armadillo, I'm talking about the drug trafficking. Oh? What is it? Lin Yi was a little disappointed, but it wasn't bad to have news about the drug trafficking. Lin Yi wouldn't mind uprooting them if he had the chance. We found a contact list when we were dealing with House Yu's illegal dealings, but we discovered something shocking. Huai Juan said solemnly. What is it? Linist. Red Conscious, the person in charge of the drug trafficking, Agenda. Huai Juan said. Agenda? Lin Yi's eyes narrowed. Agenda from Housen? Jiang Wen's brother? That's right, it's Agenda. Huai Juan nodded. From this contact list, we can see that the people in charge of Red Conches are more or less connected to the Firewolves. There's no direct evidence that the Firewolves and Red Conches are the same organization, but at the very least, they're working together. Agenda. Lin Yi frowned. I shouldn't have killed him. You've killed Agenda? Huai Juan paused. He'd come to Lin Yi this time to see if Lin Yi could get some evidence from Agenda. It wasn't realistic to use a contact list against Housen or the Firewolves. Huai Juan couldn't use normal methods to investigate Agenda and Housen, so he could only place his hopes on Lin Yi. He didn't think that Agenda was already dead. Book Ocean Pavilion Net. Lin Yi paused. He knew that the news about Housen hadn't spread, probably because they were trying to keep a low profile. He told Huai Juan about how Housen plotted against Pengzhan and caused the car accident. Forget it then. Huai Juan sighed. I thought I could get some clues from him. Does the rest of the Yin family know about this? Linus. I'm not sure about that, but I'm afraid they wouldn't know the details even if they knew. I'm just trying it out. After all, the Red Conches and the Firewolves are part of the investigation department. Huai Juan said. Knowing this is enough. With this direction of investigation, I can also pay attention to it at all times. Lin Yi said, but the Firewolf gang has many experts. Their position seems to be higher than the hidden aristocratic families. So powerful? Huai Juan cried out involuntarily. He hadn't had much contact with the Firewolves, and this was a very mysterious gang. Their business and activities weren't as grand as the regular gangs. Huai Juan didn't have much contact with them, and he didn't know the power behind them. They really are powerful. I wasn't sure before, but it seems like they're powerful enough to send out an Earth-class late-phase peak just like that. Lin Yi shook his head and sighed. Faubert had said that the Firewolves were powerful, but Lin Yi was still shocked when he saw their strength. If that's the case, then I don't recommend you to take the risk right now. After all, the enemy is too strong. Huai Juan paused. Boss, I know you're strong, taking out 3 Earth class with one move. But if the Firewolves are as strong as you say, then they might have a Sky class. Yeah, that's also why I didn't do anything to Jiangwen. Lin Yi nodded. He was protective and tyrannical, but he wasn't an idiot who'd risk his life for no reason. He'd only risk his life when he had no other choice, and he'd let them go if it wasn't necessary. It wouldn't be too late to deal with them later. Right? I've already made a report, suggesting Lingshan to be transferred over. She'll also be the captain of the criminal investigation team, but she'll get a promotion as well. After all, she solved many big cases in Songshan, and the previous captain of the criminal investigation team in Donghai was also transferred to another city because of the case I was involved in. Now that position is empty, and as the vice director of the criminal investigation team, I have a lot of say in the selection, Huaijuan said. Lingshan. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't think that Song Lingshan would follow him right after he left. This is probably her own idea, right? I knew I wouldn't be able to hide it from you, but girls chasing guys isn't that rare nowadays. If you think she's good, boss, you might as well give her a chance. Huaijuan suggested. I don't think so. She's asking me to help her solve cases all the time. If we really have some sort of relationship, wouldn't I be her assistant all the time? Lin Yi shook his head. Then let's leave it to fate. Huaijuan didn't say much. If that's the case, I'll be going first. Call me if you need anything. We'll have a good gathering after I'm done with this. Wait, since you're here, let's get down to business first. I told you last time that I could help you get to Mystic Early Phase, but your meridians had just recovered, and I was worried that your meridians wouldn't be able to handle it. But now it's fine. I can directly get you to Mystic Late Phase Peak. Lin Yi was an Earth class now, and naturally, he could increase Huaijuan's strength directly. He didn't need to compress his chi to help him get from Golden Late Phase Peak to Mystic Early Phase. Compared to Lingshan and Chintian, Huaijuan had one less pain to deal with. But Huaijuan took a deep breath. To be honest, he was quite envious of Lingshan, Yutian, and Chintian making a scene in the Noble House meeting as Mystic Late Phase Peak. They were already Mystic Late Phase Peak. This was a height that many practitioners couldn't reach in their entire lifetimes, and yet they were able to reach it so easily. Huaijuan wouldn't believe it if they said that they trained themselves. Thinking back to how fast Lin Yi helped him heal his meridians and level up last time, he knew that it was all thanks to Lin Yi. But Lin Yi didn't bring it up on his own, and Huaijuan couldn't just ask for it. What if Lin Yi needed some time to rest after leveling up these people? Wouldn't it be awkward if he was rejected? But since Lin Yi brought it up, there was no reason for Huaijuan not to say no. If you don't have anything else, let's do it now. Lin Yi nodded. Chapter 1899. Okay, I haven't bought a house here yet, I've been staying at the hotel. Let's go back to the hotel together. Huaijuan said excitedly. See me? Huaijuan was staying at the police station's guest house. He had a suite here, and before he bought a house, he was staying here. The people in the guest house evidently knew Huaijuan, and they weren't surprised that he'd brought someone back. They thought that he was meeting with a witness or an informant, and naturally, no one bothered him. Let's start now, we've learned from last time. Lin Yi smiled. Okay. Huaijuan nodded heavily and sat in front of Lin Yi, extending his hands and letting Lin Yi lock his meridians. He then started channeling his practitioner's arts. Leveling up was a walk in the park for Huaijuan as well. He started channeling the first stage of the art of dragon mastery, converting all the energy in his body into the pure energy Huaijuan needed, flowing into his meridians without end. Huaijuan's strength also broke through from Golden Late Phase Peak to Mystic, rising all the way to Mystic Early Phase Peak, Mystic Mid Phase, Mystic Late Phase Peak. Perhaps because of Lin Yi's increase in strength, Huaijuan didn't need to compress his chi when he broke through from Golden Late Phase Peak to Mystic Early Phase. There was still a barrier, but Lin Yi helped him break through easily. In other words, Huaijuan felt the pain of breaking through a bottleneck, but it wasn't as intense as Yutian and Lingshan's. Mystic Late Phase Peak, Huaijuan had already reached it, but Lin Yi didn't stop. He suddenly had an idea. Would it work if he used the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to compress his chi to help Huaijuan break through? One had to know that the purity of the chi produced by the second stage of the art of dragon mastery wasn't something the first stage could compare to. The difference was so huge that even Lin Yi was shocked. If he used the second stage to compress his chi, perhaps he really might be able to break through. Thinking of this, Lin Yi asked in a deep voice, Junzi, I'm going to help you break through from the mystic rank to the earth rank. Are you okay with that? It might be very painful, and you might even fail at the last step, causing your meridians to be crippled. However, I can still repair them. Since it can be repaired, then what were they waiting for? Come on, boss, there's no way we can increase our strength without taking some risks. Huaijuan said calmly after hearing Lin Yi's words. Huaijuan might have hesitated if his meridians were completely destroyed, but Lin Yi could repair them even if they were destroyed. The worst-case scenario was that he'd just have to suffer a bit of pain, and it'd be a waste of time. If he succeeded, he would become even more powerful. Was there even a need to choose? He believed that all cultivators would choose the latter. All right, then bear with it. With that, Lin Yi switched from the first stage of the art of dragon mastery to the second stage. Although he wasn't familiar with the second stage yet, switching between the two stages was still a piece of cake for Lin. Lin Yi started trying to compress his chi with the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. But to his surprise, he realized that it was extremely difficult to compress his chi. Compared to the first stage, the difference was like heaven and earth. The chi formed by the second stage of the art of dragon mastery seemed to be very pure, and it didn't allow Lin Yi to compress it any further. Soon, a layer of sweat formed on Lin Yi's forehead, and there was no progress in compressing his chi. Huaijuan was very puzzled. Lin Yi's chi suddenly stopped, but Lin Yi looked like he was working hard on something. Huaijuan didn't feel anything at all, and so he didn't dare ask anything even though he was puzzled. He could only cooperate silently. Lin Yi was panicking. He could use the chi in the second stage when he was searching for the practitioner's arts, but it was a little uncontrollable when it came to compressing it. It was as if he couldn't control it at all. The chi was gathered by Lin Yi, and when he tried to compress it, it either slipped away or dissipated on its own. How strange. Lin Yi didn't believe that he couldn't control the chi in his body. What was the point of practicing the art of dragon mastery then? Gritting his teeth, Lin Yi gave up on compressing a large amount of chi from before, choosing to compress a smaller area instead. This time, it had some effect. The chi was still uncontrollable, but under Lin Yi's forceful compression, it slowly shrunk to a certain size. Lin Yi was overjoyed, and didn't dare stay any longer. He immediately sent the compressed chi into Huaijuan's meridians. Huaijuan felt Lin Yi's chi pouring into his body once more. He'd been prepared for it, but the sudden release and expansion of the chi still made him feel like his meridians were about to explode. Huaijuan's roar had turned all of his clothes to ash, but the pure energy ripple that had been generated in that instant was enough to destroy everything around him. A trace of joy flashed across Lin Yi's eyes. When he broke through to Earth class, he was in the same situation as Huaijuan. But soon, the joy in Lin Yi's eyes turned into disappointment. Huaijuan didn't break through to Earth class, and the chi wave on his body had stopped. Lin Yi could tell with one look that his strength was still at mystic late phase peak. Huaijuan had broken through to Earth class with his help, but he didn't succeed. This kind of situation often happened when other practitioners tried to break through on their own. It wasn't that easy to break through a barrier, especially a barrier like this. It was extremely difficult for a practitioner to break through a barrier, especially a barrier like this. Most of them had to try multiple times before they broke through, and people like Lin Yi who broke through on the first try were rare, except for the inheritors. Of course, breaking through with Lin Yi's help was a different story. Pho! Huaijuan let out a long breath, a trace of disappointment in his eyes. He knew his own situation very well. He'd failed at the last moment. He was about to break through to Earth class, but he didn't have enough chi to continue the breakthrough. Huaijuan had experienced situations like this before in his training, so he wasn't too surprised. Huaijuan smiled at the depressed look on Lin Yi's face. Captain Eagle, don't tell me this little setback's enough to make you depressed? It's normal for practitioners to fail to break through. Chapter 1900. Just a little bit more and I might have succeeded. Lin Yi smiled bitterly, but the amount of chi he'd compressed was the limit of what Lin Yi could handle. Any more and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to control it. Yeah, that means there's hope. If it doesn't work this time, we'll try again in the future. I'm just a lab rat anyways, and I'll be staying in Donghai from now on. It'll be convenient for us to see each other. Huaijuan smiled. Hi, you're right. Lin Yi nodded, feeling a little better. Huaijuan was right, he might not be able to do it this time, but there would be chances in the future. Lin Yi had thought it through as well. The second stage of the art of dragon mastery wasn't as smooth as the first stage, probably because he just started practicing it. The incantations for each stage weren't as detailed as the divisions of strength, but if you were to divide each stage into 10 stages, Lin Yi was only at the second stage of the second stage. He just reached the second stage, and could barely use the incantations for the second stage. He was a far cry from being familiar with it. Previously, when he used the first level of the mental cultivation method to compress his true chi, he had already broken through to the first level of perfection. Naturally, he could control the true chi in his body freely, and he could even use his true chi to transmit his voice. However, if he wanted to use the second level of the mental cultivation method to do this, it would be quite impossible. Lin Yi was like a beginner when it came to the second stage. He hadn't even grasped the basics yet, so there was no way he could do anything with it. Lin Yi calmed down at the thought, remembering Jiao Lao's words. More haste, less speed. Indeed, the situation this time had proven that he only needed to be more familiar with the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. It should be possible to raise Huaijuan to the Earth class. Things that couldn't be done on the first stage were a lot easier on the second. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't too surprised. Lin Yi would have just stayed at the first stage until he was old if he couldn't make any progress with each stage. Why would he bother with the second stage if he was already familiar with it? I'll go back and consolidate my strength, and I'll try to break through on my own once I'm done. The next time I break through by myself. With your help, we might be able to break through in one go. Huaijuan said. I'm afraid it's impossible to try it myself. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. There is actually a drawback to helping you increase your strength. I didn't notice it before. But now, I've discovered that you can no longer cultivate on your own. Huaijuan paused. Lin Yi's words struck a chord with him. Huaijuan had tried to break through to the peak late phase of the golden class on his own after he got back, but nothing happened after a couple of attempts. He thought that he was busy with work. He couldn't calm his heart down, but now it seemed that this wasn't the case. Ling Shan and the others already know about it, I only found out about it later. I'm really sorry. Lin explained as he looked at the stunned Huaijuan. Eagle, what are you talking about? My strength is all thanks to you. Not only that, you're the one who saved my life. Let's not talk about when we were on missions. How many times has our team been saved because of you? Even the last few times you've done me a favor that can't be measured with words. Huaijuan said. Mystic late phase peak, that's the dream of so many practitioners. Huaijuan wasn't praising, he was just stating the truth. Even a noble house would have a hard time producing a mystic late phase peak practitioner, let alone a regular practitioner. Of course, they wouldn't be able to compete with the hidden houses or the ancient sections. Huaijuan was from a noble house, so his vision was limited to the common world. But as long as you don't have any psychological burden. Lin Yi nodded and looked at the sky outside. It's getting late, I'm going back. The two girls at home are going to check on me. Let's go, I'll send you. Huaijuan laughed, but realized that he wasn't wearing anything when he stood up. He felt a little awkward. Wait for me, I'm going to change right away. Huaijuan sent Lin Yi to the villa in the Shueshang district, and found out where Lin Yi's house was. What surprised Lin Yi was that his Cherokee had been driven back, and was parked in the parking lot in the villa's yard. It seemed like the miss must have come back in a fit of anger because she couldn't find him. She had a key to the car as well. Lin Yi quickly took out his phone and turned it on. Lin Yi was worried that he'd be disturbed when he helped Huaijuan level up, so he turned his phone off. The miss must have called him a couple of times. Is sis-in-law angry? Huaijuan blinked as he looked at Lin Yi, who was smiling bitterly. What sis-in-law? It's not like you don't know my relationship with them. Lin Yi shrugged. Tang. Huaijuan was just about to say that Tang Yin wasn't here, but a voice interrupted him before he could finish his sentence. Yang bro, so you're the one who kidnapped Shield bro. Yushu came running out of the yard before Huaijuan could finish. Mengyao and Yushu had just come back as well. Mengyao had been calling Lin Yi, but Lin Yi's phone was turned off. She'd waited for more than an hour at school, and his phone was still turned off. Mengyao was both angry and worried, so she drove back first. Mengyao wasn't worried that something had happened to Lin. What could possibly happen to him at school? Mengyao thought that Lin Yi might have gone out with Wang Xinyan, since they'd been together for the past couple of days. The thought of Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan together made Mingyao's heart feel like it was being squeezed by something. She was just about to call Lin Yi again when she heard the sound of a car parked outside the villa. The two turned around out of curiosity, only to see Lin Yi and Huaijuan getting out of the car, and Huaijuan making fun of her and Shu. Mengyao didn't know why, but her face only reddened. She wasn't angry at all. Huaijuan's next words, however, sent a chill down Mingyao's spine. Tang what? Wasn't it Tang Yin? Mengyao wanted to stop him, but Shu reacted faster than her, running out first. Mengyao let out a breath of relief. Yeah, he's looking for me. I'm helping him level up, but his phone's turned off. You guys can't reach me? Lin Yi said, not noticing that Huaijuan was halfway through his sentence. Target equals, _blank. Chapter 1901. Hashtag X00A0 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 because it was a meaningless word to Lin Yi. Tang what? Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Yeah, we saw that your phone was turned off, so we drove back first. Mengyao's heart relaxed a little at the sight of Lin Yi and Huaijuan coming back together. Even she didn't know why she felt so relaxed. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Could it be that she didn't want him to be with Xinyan? But Xiao Xiao had said yesterday that Lin Yi was allowed to find a first wife. What was he supposed to do with Wang Xinyan? Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Alright, I'll head back first then. Huaijuan said with a wave of his hand, getting into the car. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Okay. See you later. Lin Yi nodded. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Mengyao and Yushu sighed in relief as they watched the Audi A6 drive away. Luckily, Yushu reacted quickly, or else they wouldn't know how to explain Tang Yun. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Most of the people around Lin Yi had confessed, but Huaijuan hadn't returned to Songshan yet. Mengyao decided that she'd have to give him a call when she got back and tell him not to spill the beans. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Lin Yi, let's eat together. Granny's son is ready. Mengyao said, but her expression was much warmer. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 You drove the car back first. Are you angry? Lin Yi looked at Mengyao and Yushu, but didn't see anything wrong with their faces. It was as if they weren't angry at all. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 No, we're a little tired, so we drove back first. You're in good health anyway, so it doesn't matter if you don't have a car. Mengyao made up a random excuse. You better tell us when you're out next time, we don't want to wait for you at school. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 I did lose track of time today. Lin Yi nodded as he looked at Mengyao. Was this concern for him? However, the eldest miss always had this kind of expression, so he couldn't tell what she was really thinking. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Mengyao didn't say anything else as they entered the villa. Grandma's son knew that they were back, so she started putting the dishes on the table. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Grandma's son originally said that she would eat after Lin Yi and Mengyao finished eating, but after Lin Yi and Mengyao asked a few times, she ate with them. After all, there were only 4 people in the house, and the table wasn't crowded. There was no need to separate. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Plus. In those tough years, Mengyao and Yushu had always eaten with Grandma's son, and they were used to it. Now that Grandma's son suddenly became a housekeeper and had to separate, they weren't used to it. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Grandma's son, have you ever thought about finding another partner? Lin Yi suddenly remembered Falbert's call and asked casually. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Grandma's son paused and looked at Lin Yi in confusion. Mr. Lin, are you saying that you want me to get married again? Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 You're already so old, and you have no one to rely on in the future. You should find another partner, Lin Yi said. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 This. Mr. Lin, want me to leave? Grandma's son didn't quite understand Lin Yi's meaning and thought that Lin Yi wanted her to leave. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Lin Yi, what do you mean by this? Mengyao was also a bit confused by Lin Yi's sudden question. She glared at Lin Yi and told him not to talk nonsense. She would be the first to disagree if he wanted to chase Grandma's son away. If Grandma's son hadn't taken them in during those difficult years, she, Shu, and even Lin Yi would have been found by Yu Lu and died without a burial place. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Grandma's son, you misunderstood. I mean, it just so happens that I know a person who is also single. He is about the same age as you. I also talked to him about this a while ago. I want you to meet him. If you like, you can live together. It can be considered a companion. Lin said. Hashtag X00A0 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 Hashtag X00A 0 hashtag x00a0 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 hashtag x0 0a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 Grandma's son was talking about Lin Yi being a practitioner and being hunted down by House Yu. These things naturally couldn't be told to normal people, so Grandma's son rejected Lin Yi directly. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. This person isn't an outsider. Speaking of which, he's our housekeeper in Songsan. Lin smiled. We're all family. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. Lin Yi, you're talking about Faubert. Meng Yao finally understood what Lin Yi meant. Her eyes lit up as she looked at Grandma's son and thought about Faubert. Indeed, Faubert had always been single, but he really was a couple with Grandma's son. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 Grandma's son, you and Faubert are both single. You can be a couple. Yushu happily agreed. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. That's. Grandma's son wasn't as conflicted as before when she heard that Lin Yi was a housekeeper in Songsan and was also single. However, she hadn't thought about these things for a long time. Now that she was suddenly asked to find a man, she wasn't used to it. Mr. Lin, I know that you mean well, but I don't remember if I have a husband or a child, and I don't remember how they are. Plus, I haven't thought about these things. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. Haha, then let's meet first. Let's leave everything to fate and get to know each other, Lin Yi smiled. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. Then, I'll listen to Mr. Lin. Grandma's son said, but didn't expect too much. She'd gotten used to being alone after all these years, and she didn't want to waste Lin Yi's good intentions. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. On the morning of the 11th, Lin Yi drove Meng Yao and Yushu to the economics building and parked the car back in the parking lot. He saw that it was about time, so he didn't go back to his dorm and went straight to the biology building. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. As expected, by Wei Duo, Song Xiaodao, and Zhao Xingji were already sitting in the third row, and Xinyan was still sitting in the window seat. The seat beside her was still empty. Hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0 hashtag x00a0. Lin Yi over here. Bai Weido chuckled as he pointed at the seat next to Xinyan. Hashtag x00a0 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 hashtag x00a0. She didn't know why she was sitting here again, and she didn't know why she'd left a spot for Lin. As far as she was concerned, Lin Yi wouldn't be sitting here again, would he? Otherwise, she could have sat on the right and left 2 empty seats on the left. That way, it would be impossible for Lin Yi to sit over. Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Hashtag X00A0 Lin Yi smiled and sat down beside Xinyan naturally. Lin Yi had an inexplicable fondness for Xinyan, perhaps because she was the first girl he'd met since coming to Songshan. Thank you for using China Mobile's mobile phone to read. Traffic is free, except for listening to books. Passing by. Actually, being a passerby is a great profession. Scene 1. Annihilation 0. The OP didn't get any replies for a long time. The OP would feel like his presence was weak and that he wasn't being followed by anyone at all. When a passerby said, passing by, the OP would suddenly feel like he was being followed after all. Of course, his mood would improve, and he'd feel how beautiful the world was, how fresh the air was, how much more food he'd eaten, his back no longer hurt, and how nimble his limbs were. I digressed. Scene 2. Desolation. When no one has posted or replied to a post for a long time, a passerby passed by and the post moved. People found something to talk about again, and so the OP came alive again. Flowers needed leaves to support them, and even the biggest movie needed passersby. Passing by was one of the most important phrases to use when replying to a post. Actually, being a passerby is a great profession. Scene 1. Annihilation 0. The OP didn't get any replies for a long time. The OP would feel like his presence was weak and that he wasn't being followed after all. When a passerby said, passing by, the OP would suddenly feel like he was being followed after all. Of course, his mood would improve, and he'd feel how beautiful the world was, how much more food he'd eaten, his back no longer hurt, and how nimble his limbs were. I digressed. Scene 2. Desolation. When no one has posted or replied to a post for a long time, a passerby passed by and the post moved. People found something to talk about again, and so the OP came alive again. Flowers needed leaves to support them, and even the biggest movie needed passersby. Of course, passing by was one of the most important phrases to use when replying to a post. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1902. Their first encounter on the train had left a deep impression. Otherwise, with Lin Yi's personality, he wouldn't have bothered with Xinyan's business in the business district. Book Ocean Pavilion, net. I'm sorry about the day before yesterday. I made your girlfriend misunderstand. Xinyan saw Lin Yi sitting beside her, and for some reason she felt relieved. It was as if she wanted him to sit beside her. But Xinyan didn't think that she had fallen in love with Lin Yi. Her thoughts were similar to Lin Yi's. The two of them seemed to be fated, and it could only be said that they had a good impression of each other. Xinyan, of course, didn't forget about her engagement. Since it was an engagement, it didn't matter whether she liked him or not. Oh, they're not my girlfriends, Lin Yi said. They're not? Xinyan paused, feeling a little excited. Weren't they? That's good. But Xinyan didn't know why she was so excited. Even if they weren't, Lin Yi still had girlfriends. Perhaps she was happy because Lin Yi treated her as a friend and didn't hide anything from her? My elders asked me to take care of them. Lin Yi didn't lie to Xinyan. When he first came to Songshan, it was indeed old Lin who asked him to come. Book Ocean Pavilion, net. So that's how it is. You guys live together? Xinyan regretted asking the question. She wasn't a gossipy person. Why did she suddenly ask Lin Yi this question? It wasn't polite. Yeah, I bought a villa nearby, and the three of us live together with a butler. Lin Yi nodded. Xinyan nodded. If that was the case, then it wasn't cohabitation, it was just sharing a room. The villa was so big, it wasn't much different from living in a dorm at school. Xinyan shook her head at the thought. Her thoughts were a little messy today. What was she thinking about all these random things for? At that moment, Boss Bai walked into the classroom, and the classroom quieted down. Xinyan snapped out of her daze and looked at the podium. That's right, they're all here. I thought there would be people who would ask for leave to avoid military training. Boss Bai said casually, if you are really sick, I won't force you. However, a few years ago, A student pretended to be sick and directly disqualified me from the final exam. He had to repeat the exam with the next student. When everyone heard Boss Bai's words, they couldn't help but feel a chill. This old man was really ruthless. To recultivate with the next cohort, wouldn't that be equivalent to going to college for 5 years? However, thinking that Boss Bai must be an expert in medicine, it was impossible to pretend to be sick in front of him. 2 students in the classroom who were about to take out their medical records and ask for leave immediately stopped. Next, I'll rearrange the class leaders. By Wei Tuo, you'll be the class leader, and Wang Xinyan, you'll be the vice class leader and study commissary. With that, Boss Bai didn't allow the students to question him at all. He moved on to the next thing. In a while, there will be a bus to take you to the military training, but our Donghai Industry University's military training has always been known for being the strictest. This time, you'll be going to the border guards nearby, so be prepared. Wang Xinyan was a bit stunned. She looked at Lin Yi, not understanding how she had become the vice class leader and study commissary. Bai Weiduo, on the other hand, had expected this result, so he didn't feel anything out of place. He only thought to himself, only big bro Lin can change my stubborn grandpa's mind, right? Everyone in the class had heard about the strictness of the military training in Donghai Industry University. The 2 students who had wanted to pretend to be sick had given up because they heard that the military training was too strict. It was said that this was real military training, and it was a completely different concept from the military training in high school. But after the training, their bodies were indeed strengthened. However, Coiling Tiger Wright looked at the nervous and scared students in the class with a disdainful look on his face. Coiling Tiger Wright was an elixir maker, but he was still a golden class cultivator. His body was much stronger than normal students, and no matter how crazy the military training was, he wouldn't feel any pressure. Okay, that's all. Let's gather in front of the teaching building of the biology department later. The military training is based on each department. There will be a transport vehicle to take you to the military training site. After saying that, Boss Bai was ready to leave. No way? We're going somewhere else? When the students in the class heard that they had to leave for the military training, they immediately became a little anxious. They also had other high school classmates who had applied for other universities, and their military training had already ended. However, they were all training in school. It was relatively rare for them to go directly to the army for military training. Yeah, let's go buy something delicious. We won't be able to buy anything if we go there. Another student said anxiously. Oh, right, a reminder. Boss Bai was just about to leave when he turned around and reminded them, during the military training, you're not allowed to bring snacks, clothes, or personal belongings. We'll provide you with food and lodging, and you'll have to hand in all your belongings and return them after the training. No way. Boss Bai's words made those students who were about to go shopping feel discouraged. At around 10 o'clock in the morning, rows of military buses stopped in front of the biology faculty's teaching building. The medicine faculty was relatively small, with less than 30 people in total, so they took a separate bus. After everyone had boarded the bus, it started slowly and drove toward the military training site. Military training was based on classes, so every bus was filled with students from a class. Some specializations had more students in their classes, so there were even 3 students squeezed into one seat. As for the medical specialization, the entire specialization sat in one bus, and there were still empty seats. Lin Yi was wondering if he should still sit with Xinyan when he saw Bai Weiduo, Song Xiaodao, and Zhao Xingji sitting in the last row, with other students sitting next to them. It was obvious that they didn't want to leave a seat for Lin Yi. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly as he sat next to Xinyan. We're sitting together again, what a coincidence. Lin Yi was a little awkward, it was a little too obvious. Yeah. Xinyan blushed, thinking that it wasn't a coincidence at all, it was clearly intentional. But she didn't say it. Right Coiling Tiger, Yellow Hair, and Purple Hair sat in a seat far away from Lin Yi. Right Coiling Tiger hated and feared Lin Yi, and wanted to cause trouble for Lin Yi, but he wasn't strong enough. He could only endure it for now. In fact, with the Hidden House U's strength, sending out another Earth-class late-phase peak wasn't a hard thing to do, But the problem was, even if they did send this person, would they be able to do anything to Lin Yi? Chapter 1903. If they were killed by Lin Yi in one move, it would be a huge loss. House Yu did have a sky-class master, but without the approval of the ancient sects, who would dare to let them out? The Heavenly Elixir sect had specifically reminded the Hidden Right family about this matter. Although Sky Elixir sect was growing stronger and had surpassed the other ancient sects, they still didn't have the ability to destroy the other ancient sections. Naturally, they couldn't be too arrogant. Has your family's matter been resolved? On the way, the other students were chatting and laughing. Only Xinyan and Lin Yi were quiet. Lin Yi felt a little awkward and found a random topic. It's been resolved. Xinyan thought about her background and sighed. Is the engagement with House Kong still there? Linist. Yeah. Xinyan nodded. She didn't know why, but she was frustrated. She didn't like this marriage before, but she didn't want to marry Xiaolong as much as she did now. She didn't want to marry Xiaolong anymore. You haven't broken the engagement? Lin Yi was surprised, but he remembered that Xiao family and House Kong were in a similar situation. Although they both had the support of hidden houses, many masters had died. The possibility of the two joining forces was very high. It's more or less settled. I'm in university and I'm in Donghai. I'm afraid Xiaolong will come looking for me soon. Xinyan smiled bitterly. You don't want to marry him? Linist. So what if I don't want to? I'm just a sacrifice for my family's interests. Xinyan shook her head. She was disappointed and even a little dull. You don't have to marry him if you don't want to, Lin Yi sympathized with Xinyan. If Xinyan married a good man, Lin Yi would bless her. But if she married House Kong, according to Lin Yi's calculations, House Kong would be destroyed by him sooner or later. Wouldn't she become a widow if she married them? I don't want to marry. Do I have to marry you? Xinyan smiled bitterly, but for some reason she made a joke. Wang Xinyan's face burned as soon as she heard that. She wasn't a person who liked to joke, but it made her a little embarrassed to say it out loud. Sure. Lin Yi smiled. I'm just joking with you. Xinyan's face turned even redder at Lin Yi's reply, but she was a little pleasantly surprised. It wasn't as if Lin Yi didn't look down on her at all. Lin Yi's cold demeanor earlier. Wang Xinyan still thought that she wasn't attracted to her at all. There were some men who would act cold to attract attention when they were pursuing a girl, but Wang Xinyan knew that Lin Yi wasn't that type of person. Lin Yi's coldness was really indifferent. It was as if he had seen through everything. He didn't take it to heart. I'm just joking. I can't kill Xiaolong, can I? Lin Yi laughed. You don't seem to be afraid of House Kong. Aren't you afraid? Xinyan suddenly remembered that the man in front of her wasn't a normal person either. He'd kicked House Xiao and House Kong out of the noble house ranks, and Uncle Pai, Pai Yang, and the others had either died at his hands or his lackey's hands. But he was still alive and well. Even though the Kong and Xiao families had strong support, they had no choice but to maintain the prosperity of their families through marriage. You don't really want me to kill Xiaolong, do you? Lin Yi asked in a low voice. Xinyan paused. She shook her head, even though she did think about it for a moment. She really wanted to ask Lin Yi to kill Xiaolong, but that idea was too crazy. It'd be fine if Lin Yi killed the guards, but if he really killed Xiaolong, wouldn't there be a lot of trouble? With that thought, Xinyan gave up on the idea. Kill him and marry Kong Ming? That bastard is even worse. Then kill them all, Lin Yi said. Xinyan didn't know what to say. Lin Yi looked like a gentleman. Was he a violent maniac? Kill them all just like that? Meng Yao and Yushu sat in the other car. It was an economics car. Yao, it's tough without Shield Bro's help, right? Yushu missed Lin Yi a little. She probably wouldn't be able to see him during this time. We can do it without him, Meng Yao said. Shu, we need to learn not to rely on him too much. He'll leave one day. How can he stay in our villa forever? We're living in his villa now. Yushu said. Shield Bro won't chase us away if we don't leave. We're already in university. We'll grow up eventually. We'll have our own families and careers. Are we still going to rely on Lin Yi then? Mengyao sighed as she looked at the trees passing by outside the window, a little sad. She felt that she had matured quite a bit in this half a year, and was no longer that stubborn miss who didn't know anything anymore. Lin Yi had taught her the value of friendship, family, and love, especially during those difficult times. It was a precious memory. Yao Yao, why don't you be Shield Bro's first wife? That way, you can be with him forever. Yu Shu suggested. Aren't you a second wife? You can be with him, right? Yao smiled. Yu Shu's eyes flashed with worry. Okay, I'll try my best. Meng Yao looked at Shu strangely. She felt like something was wrong with Shu today. Wasn't she always full of confidence? Why did she say she'll try her best? It's nothing, the weather's pretty good today, Shu said. Meng Yao looked at Shu, confused. She didn't know what she was talking about. After the cars left the school, they drove onto the national highway. The more they drove, the more secluded they got. Eventually, they got onto a dirt road. The car's shock absorbers were pretty good, but the bumpy ride was too much for the spoiled students. They started whining, regretting that they didn't bring a cushion. Meng Yao and Yu Shu, on the other hand, were perfectly composed. They wouldn't have been able to take this pain half a year ago, but they'd gone to the snowy valley once, and they'd been through all sorts of hardships. This was nothing compared to it. The two looked at each other and smiled. This was a rare life experience. Xinyan wasn't a spoiled child, but she'd never suffered like this before. She was still a little carsick. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to listen to her MP3 player on the train and plane. Music could reduce the dizziness. To be continued. Chapter 1904. Blurg. Xinyan felt a little nauseated. She didn't bring her MP3 player, and since they weren't allowed to bring their personal belongings during the training, she naturally wouldn't break the school's rules. What's wrong? Lin Yi turned around to see that Xinyan's face was a little pale, and there was a thin layer of sweat on her forehead. She looked like she was in pain. I'm a little nauseous, motion sick, I want to vomit. But as soon as the words left his mouth, a puddle of white liquid came out of his mouth and landed on Lin Yi's pants. Lin Yi didn't move away, nor did he look down on Xinyan. He reached out to press on her acupuncture points, but hesitated halfway. Xinyan still wanted to vomit, so Lin Yi didn't hesitate any longer. He put his hand under Xinyan's shirt and pressed on the acupoint on her stomach, sending a pure stream of pure qi over to calm the urge to vomit. Xinyan's carsick was obviously caused by her stomach being shaken, and that was why she felt like vomiting. Lin Yi only needed to straighten out her stomach and liver, and she'd be fine. However, Bai Weiduo felt that the carriage was a little too monotonous, and he wanted to sing a song with his classmates to ease the monotony of the journey. But when he walked past Lin Yi, he saw Xinyan's head buried in Lin Yi's chest, and Lin Yi's hand under her clothes. Bai Weiduo was shocked. Xinyan's vomiting wasn't loud, and no one in the carriage noticed, but Bai Weiduo stood in the middle of the carriage and made another sound, drawing the attention of the other students. They all turned to look, and the ones who were closer saw Lin Yi and Xinyan's states clearly. They were all stunned. Isn't that it? My goddess. She's taken just like that? A guy sighed, looking up at the sky. Hearing his sigh, the other people's gazes became even more ambiguous. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This Bai Weiduo, of all the times he could have come, he just had to come when he was treating Xinyan's vomiting. There was no way he could explain this. However, Lin Yi was not a person who liked to explain things to others. In the dormitory, sometimes he would explain to Bai Weiduo and the others. That was because they were his roommates. Lin Yi treated them as his friends. That was why he would explain to them. But other than that, he counted on Lin Yi to explain to others. That was simply an unrealistic thing. Bai Weiduo saw Lin Yi's dumbfounded expression. Knowing that he was in trouble, he quickly walked to the front of the car and said to his classmates, "We're only halfway through the journey. Let's sing a song. It's our first group activity. What do you think?" This time, everyone's attention was diverted by Bai Weiduo. Of course, although everyone was a little curious about Lin Yi's boldness, this kind of thing was also common on campus. Everyone had also familiarized themselves with the campus in the past 2 days. They also had a better understanding of the young couples who met in the woods and the swimming pool. This kind of thing was nothing between couples. So what if they touched each other? There were real fights in the swimming pool. Bai Weiduo took the lead and sang a song by Su Shirhan. A song by Su Shirhan. The young people were all familiar with it, and they all liked her. Bai Weiduo started singing, and the others started singing. Of course, except for Right Coiling Tiger and the others. Right Coiling Tiger was a little depressed when he heard Su Shirhan's song. It wasn't that he didn't have the idea of hitting on Su Shirhan. In fact, he went to ask Su Shirhan out, and he even wanted to ask her to play with him through her manager, but he was rejected. Right Coiling Tiger was very depressed because of this. He wanted to forcefully kidnap Su Shirhan, but he didn't think that Su Shirhan's bodyguard was a master. Although Right Coiling Tiger didn't give up, he didn't have the chance to get close to Su Shirhan. He could only give up for now. Of course, Lin Yi didn't sing, because he didn't know how to sing at all. Su Shirhan came to his house to sing a few times, but Lin Yi didn't participate. Under Lin Yi's chi, Wang Xinyan's face looked a lot better. She let out a sigh of relief and raised her head from Lin Yi's arms, but when she remembered that Lin Yi's hand was still on her stomach, her face turned red again. "I'm sorry, it was a misunderstanding." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't want to explain to others, but he had to explain to Wang Xinyan. No matter what, Wang Xinyan was his good friend, and it wouldn't look good for a girl like her to have a misunderstanding. "Thank you." Wang Xinyan was a little shy, but she wasn't angry at Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi was a very good doctor, and Wang Xinyan knew that from the beginning. Back on the business street, when Lin Yi saved Lu Zhenhu, Wang Xinyan knew that. And so, Xinyan knew that Lin Yi didn't have any other intentions. He was just trying to help her. It was embarrassing that he'd touched her stomach, but he'd done it out of good intentions. Why would she blame him? Lin Yi let go of his hand and pinched Wang Xinyan's forehead a couple of times, and Wang Xinyan felt refreshed. She didn't feel nauseous anymore, and the dizziness from before was gone as well. She felt a lot better in an instant. It was amazing. This man really was good. Wang Xinyan looked at Lin Yi, a complicated look in her eyes. Lin Yi wasn't just good at martial arts, either. He'd been able to get the scammer's money back on the train, and then switch Zhang Duopan and Fangon his wine. This wasn't something a normal person could do. Lin Yi's skills were on par with a magician's or a thief's. But this wasn't even Lin Yi's specialty. Lin Yi's medical skills were something that Wang Xinyan couldn't help but gasp in amazement. To be able to make her sober from motion sickness in such a short amount of time, that was no ordinary feat. It was just a small ailment, but it was hard to cure it completely. She'd have to vomit for a long time every time she got carsick, and she'd have to drink a couple bottles of Huaxiang Jingqi water to recover. But all Lin Yi did was rub his abdomen and forehead. What amazing medical skills! If that wasn't enough, then Lin Yi's martial arts skills were even more amazing. Uncle Pai, Pai Yang Yang, and the others were from hidden houses. They'd only be sending themselves to their deaths in front of Lin Yi and his lackeys. Just what kind of person was he? He was just a normal student in a university. She wouldn't have noticed the difference between Lin Yi and the other students if she didn't know about all this. She felt Lin Yi's hand move away from her forehead as she was lost in her thoughts. She felt a sudden reluctance to part with Lin Yi's hand. She didn't know if it was because she didn't want to let go of that refreshing feeling, or because she didn't want to let go of Lin Yi's hand. To be continued. Chapter 1905. What's there to thank me for? We're the ones who got misunderstood. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. So what if it's a misunderstanding? Xinyan shook her head as she noticed the white stain on Lin Yi's pants, along with the mucus from her own stomach. It was a disgusting mess. Xinyan hadn't eaten breakfast this morning, only drinking a bag of milk. She vomited half of it on Lin Yi's pants, feeling guilty. "I'm sorry, your pants." "Oh, it's nothing." Lin Yi didn't feel disgusted at all. It wasn't a big deal at all. Back when he was on a mission with Huaijuan, Lin Yi didn't feel disgusted at all, not to mention the mucus from poisonous flowers and plants. He'd seen it all before, let alone vomit. "I'll help you wash it?" Xinyan said, a little embarrassed. I heard they're giving us camouflage uniforms when we get there. I'll change out of them when we get back. Lin Yi said casually. Yeah. Xinyan didn't say anything else, but what happened just now had brought the two of them closer. The two had known each other for a long time, but the intimate contact this time, despite the fact that it was a therapy session, made them feel a lot closer. Bai Weitua led the group to sing a couple of songs before walking to the back of the car. The group was tired after a couple of songs and needed a break, but Bai Weitua couldn't help but turn around when he passed by Lin Yi's seat. What he saw shocked him even more. It was on Lin Yi's pants. There was a puddle of milky white, dried mucus. Bai Weitua had seen them do it a couple of times before. His thoughts weren't too pure either, so he thought of a possibility. Wasn't Wang Xinyan looking down just now? Could it be that she was helping Lin, and then she choked and vomited on Lin Yi's pants? He thought he heard Xinyan retching just now. It had to be because of this. But this time, Bai Weitua didn't dare to make a ruckus. He just gave Lin Yi a thumbs up and said in a low voice, "Congratulations, Brother Lin. You got sister-in-law to help you so quickly. Hee, in a place with so many people, awesome." Lin Yi was stunned, not knowing what Bai Weitua was talking about. Xinyan didn't know what was going on either. However, she could still understand the word, sister-in-law. She immediately blushed and lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Yi and Bai Weitua. I'll go back first. I won't bother you anymore." When Bai Weitua saw Lin Yi's stunned look, he thought he had seen through him, so he quickly walked back. He told Song Xiaodao and Zhao Xingji about what he saw and heard in a low voice. "Just now? What did he say?" Xinyan asked after Bai Weitua left. Although she knew that what Bai Weitua said was definitely not something good, she still asked out of curiosity. Besides, she and Lin Yi had nothing to do with each other, and they were good friends. She wasn't afraid of anything. "Just now? He said you helped me." "Help me with what?" Lin Yi was confused as well. But when he looked down, he saw the white mucus on his pants. He suddenly understood, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wang Xinyan wasn't an innocent girl who didn't know anything. She had health classes in high school, and she heard about some things from her classmates. At this moment, she followed Lin Yi's gaze to Lin Yi's pants, and she finally understood what Bai Weitua meant. She was lying on Lin Yi's body just now, and he thought that she was helping Lin. Thinking of this, Wang Xinyan blushed even redder. Why was this Bai Weitua's thinking so complicated? But there was no way to explain this. The more she explained, the worse it would get. Seeing Wang Xinyan's expression, Lin Yi knew that this girl understood what Bai Weitua meant. He shook his head helplessly. "I'll explain to him later." "Forget it, it's not a big deal. I don't need anyone to do anything to me." Wang Xinyan shook her head and stopped Lin Yi from explaining. "It's not good for your reputation," Lin Yi said. Chapter 1906. I think he's from the border defense, but I didn't know he was from here. Yushu had never been to her brother's army before, so she was surprised. At this moment, Chen Yutian started speaking. "Hello, freshman. I'm the person in charge here, Chen Yutian. I'm also the head instructor of this military training. Donghai Industry University's military training has always been the strictest. Here, I will train you according to the requirements of our army. This is a test of your willpower, and also a strengthening of your body. In the days to come, I will arrange for you to train new recruits. Those who are the same age as you, or even those who are a year younger than you, can do it. I don't want any of you to fall behind." Although the students knew that the military training would be strict, they couldn't help but complain when they heard that Chen Yutian was training them according to the requirements of new recruits. But thinking about it, it wasn't too bad. If it was according to the requirements of veterans, it would be even more difficult for them. "This time, I will also complete your training with other instructors. I will be the instructor of one of your classes," Chen Yutian said. "All instructors, get into position. Bring your class to collect camouflage uniforms and daily necessities. Arrange the dormitories. After dinner, meet here at 6 o'clock. "Yes." A row of instructors standing not far away from the stage responded in unison. What surprised Lin even more was that Chen Yutian became the medical instructor. When Chen Yutian saw that Lin Yi was in the group, he was shocked and embarrassed. Once upon a time, Lin Yi was his instructor, and even now Lin Yi was still his boss, someone he respected in his heart. He didn't have the ability to be Lin Yi's instructor. He knew Lin Yi's ability very well. It was a coincidence that he'd become a medical instructor. He'd heard that it was the best major in the school, and so he'd chosen it. He hadn't expected Lin Yi to be here as well. Lin Yi didn't care about going to university. He only wanted to accompany Meng Yao and Yu Shu, so Lin Yi didn't tell Chen Yutian where he went to school and which major he signed up for. Meng Yao and Yu Shu, on the other hand, didn't have the chance to talk to Chen Yutian too much because they had to escape with Lin. The only time they met was in the hospital, and after that, Chen Yutian went back to the army. They didn't have the chance to talk about these things. Lin Yi smiled at Chen Yutian and made a shushing gesture. Chen Yutian naturally understood that Lin Yi didn't want to expose his identity. This put Chen Yutian at ease. Lin Yi wasn't someone who was easy to talk to, but he was very easy to talk to his friends. Chen Yutian brought the 20 or so medical students to a row of houses. This is your dorm, boys and girls share the same bed. You must take off your clothes when you sleep at night, and you must wake up when you hear the number in the middle of the night. Now, guys and girls, come and get your camouflage uniforms and necessities. What Chen Yutian said was what he always said to the students during military training. Although he rose in rank due to his contributions, he started from the lowest rank as an officer. He had been an instructor for these students for many years, so he said these words casually. But after he said it, he felt that something was wrong. There was only one girl in the medical faculty. In the past, there wasn't a single girl in the medical faculty. Although there were more boys than girls in the classes Chen Yutian taught before, there was never a situation where there was only one girl. It should be known that when the university divided students into classes according to their major, they would also distribute the number of boys and girls in a balanced way. Although there were very few girls in majors like computer science and office automation, there would still be 8 to 10 girls in a class of 30. Even if it was a little less, there would definitely be more than one girl. When there were a lot of girls, it wasn't a big deal to sleep with guys at night. After all, they were all wearing clothes and the girls would always be in a group, far away from the guys. But this was the first time Chen Yutian encountered a situation where there was only one girl. He was in a difficult position. How was he supposed to live here? Was he supposed to let a girl sleep with a bunch of guys at night? It was fine even if there was one more guy to keep her company. This way, a girl couldn't go to the bathroom or take a shower without someone to keep her company. It was inconvenient. Chen Yutian glanced at the name list in his hand and said, Wang Xinyan, you're the only girl in the class, and it might be inconvenient for you to rest at night. Do you want me to transfer you to another class? Wang Xinyan froze. To be honest, it was inconvenient for her to be the only girl in the class, but at least there were a few familiar classmates and her best friend, Lin. If she was transferred to a class full of strangers, she would feel even more uncomfortable. Seeing Wang Xinyan in a daze, Bai Weiduo stood up and said, reporting to the instructor, I'm the class monitor, Bai Weiduo. Wang Xinyan is Lin Yi's girlfriend, there's no inconvenience. He was the class monitor, and naturally he had to stand up at this time. Besides, Lin Yi was his big brother, and Wang Xinyan was his best friend. The vice monitor was Wang Xinyan, and it was inappropriate for Wang Xinyan to report herself. It was better for him, the class monitor, to take the lead. Bai Weiduo had gotten the military training rules before, and he knew how to report to the instructor, so he did it meticulously. Chen Yutian looked at Lin Yi in surprise. As expected, Wang Xinyan was standing together with Lin. He was puzzled. Since when did Wang Xinyan become Lin Yi's girlfriend? However, he saw Wang Xinyan's blushing face, and Lin didn't say anything, so he nodded. All right, Bai Weiduo, return to the team. Since that's the case, get the camouflage uniforms and supplies. We'll eat at the canteen at 5 and be back here at 6. Bai Weiduo replied and returned to the team. At this time, some soldiers used a pickup truck to pull a truck full of supplies. Chen Yutian waved at Bai Weiduo, asking him to help distribute the supplies. After collecting the supplies, the students went to the terrace house to rest. The terrace house was actually a large shared bed. The conditions weren't very good, but it was arranged this way to train everyone's will of hardships. Chapter 1907. Xinyan snapped back to her senses after taking the supplies. She'd been mistaken as Lin Yi's girlfriend again, but it wasn't the first time. Big bro Lin, why don't you take Xinyan to a place to change? We guys are too lazy to go to the washroom to change, so we'll just close the door and change in the house. Bai Weitua said as he saw Lin Yi walk in with Xinyan. All right. Lin Yi shook his head helplessly. She wanted him to take Xinyan to get changed? Where would they go to change? There's a public washroom not too far from here. I think they go there to change. Xinyan saw the frown on Lin Yi's face and understood what Lin Yi was thinking. Public washroom? Lin Yi paused and turned his head. There was indeed a public restroom not too far from his camp, 2 camps away from him. There was a long line for the girls, though. There were fewer people on the boys' side, but there was a long line for the girls. Lin Yi understood immediately. Most guys didn't care, and even if they didn't go to the washroom, they'd just find a place to change their clothes. Girls, on the other hand, wouldn't change in front of so many people? But how long would it take for Xinyan to wait in line? Xinyan, on the other hand, could see that it was troublesome as well. Girls took longer to change than guys, too, so the line would probably take a few hours. Maybe you can hide behind the house, and I'll keep a lookout? Lin Yi looked at the back of the townhouse. There was a fence, but there was nothing behind it other than a cement ditch. It was very clean, with not even a speck of mud in it. Xinyan hesitated, feeling a little embarrassed at first, but then she remembered that Lin Yi had touched her stomach. What was there to be embarrassed about? There were a lot of people in the washroom, too. Xinyan nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you. Xinyan jumped into the ditch carefully, not because she was afraid of Lin Yi peeking. She didn't know why, but she had this strange trust in Lin. She jumped into the ditch because she didn't want anyone to see her. She quickly took off her clothes in the gutter and looked at the bra she was wearing. She hesitated for a moment. She'd have to train later, and she'd have to sleep with her clothes on at night. It'd be very uncomfortable to wear the bra, and it'd be troublesome to take it off again. Might as well take it off now. With that in mind, Xinyan unbuttoned her bra and took it off, placing it on top of the top she'd just taken off. She was just about to put her tank top back on when an irritating autumn wind blew at her, sending her bra flying into the air. Xinyan's bra didn't have any silicone in it, and it didn't have any massage functions. It was just a normal, light type. The camp was very empty too. Ah! Xinyan yelped as she looked at her bra being blown away. She reached out to grab it. Lin Yi had his back turned, waiting for Xinyan to change her clothes. It wasn't that he didn't like Xinyan, and he wanted to peek, but Lin Yi didn't think it was right. He was a man of principles, and so he didn't turn around. But Xinyan's scream gave Lin Yi a fright. Xinyan wouldn't be in trouble, would she? Or would some gangster come over? Lin Yi quickly turned around and looked in Xinyan's direction. In actuality, Lin Yi had turned his head around so easily because Xinyan was standing in the gutter. There were tall stone steps blocking his view, and as long as he crouched down, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to see her at all. But then, Xinyan got up to grab her bra, her arms spread wide, and the white of her chest entered Lin Yi's line of sight. But Lin Yi gulped. There was only one thought in his mind when he saw Xinyan's chest, so big, so white. He didn't think that Xinyan's chest wouldn't look that big when she wore it, but when she took it off, it was full of assets. It wasn't as big as shoes, but it was at least a few levels bigger than Miss. In fact, this was also the result of Xinyan wearing a thin bra. Xinyan didn't purposely squeeze her chest, and she usually wore casual clothes. Of course, it wouldn't be seen. Seeing Lin Yi turn around, Xinyan was stunned. Her hands were raised in the air, and she forgot to pull them back. She didn't know what to do. But the next moment, Xinyan understood what Lin Yi was looking at. Her face reddened as she covered her chest and crouched down, not daring to come out of the gutter. She didn't dare to come out? Xinyan's face reddened as she realized what Lin Yi was looking at. Lin Yi finally understood why Xinyan was screaming, and what she was trying to do with her wings spread. Her bra had been blown away by the autumn wind, and not only had it flown away, it had flown all the way to the rooftop of the house. Lin Yi was speechless. He'd wanted to wait for Xinyan to change her clothes and pick it up himself. After all, it wasn't a good idea for him to pick it up, but now he really had to do it himself. Xinyan couldn't do it at all. Shaking his head, Lin Yi flew to the roof. The row house was tall, but it wasn't much in Lin Yi's eyes. It only took a few leaps for him to reach the roof. Xinyan's bra was hanging on a piece of debris on the roof. Lin Yi picked up the bra, and a gust of wind blew against his face again. This time, it brought with it a real fragrance, like the body fragrance of a young girl. It was very pleasant. Lin Yi paused, and then realized that it was the fragrance of Xinyan's bra. The scent sent a shiver down Lin Yi's spine. It felt cool and refreshing. Xinyan wasn't someone who liked to put on makeup, and he could tell that she didn't use perfume or anything like that from how she usually wore no makeup. Could it be the legendary body fragrance? Lin Yi wasn't sure. As he was thinking, he heard someone calling him from below. Big Brother Lin? Bai Weitua finished changing and walked out of the row house. He raised his head and saw Lin Yi standing on the beam, not knowing what he was doing. Bai Weitua? Lin Yi turned around and saw Bai Weitua, but his hand was still holding Xinyan's bra. He felt a little awkward. Bai Weitua also saw the bra in Xinyan's hand. His admiration for Lin Yi was like the yellow river flowing from the sky into the sea, never to return. Big Brother Lin, you're amazing, you're amazing. You're doing it with your sis-in-law on the roof. You're so much better than those car shock bro and boobs bro. You're the roof bro. Bai Weitua gave a thumbs up. He had never seen a couple do it on the roof. Chapter 1908. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio, Ugh. You're thinking too much. Lin Yi sweated. I went to the house just to pick up. Xinyan's in the gutter? Gutter? That's still pretty fierce. Bai Weitua said. Lin Yi knew that there was no point in trying to explain himself. He didn't say anything else as he jumped out of the house and went to the gutter behind the house. Xinyan had already put on her clothes, but her face was still a little red, especially when Lin Yi came back with her bra. She lowered her head in embarrassment. Xinyan told herself that it was just a misunderstanding, and that it was nothing. She'd waited for Lin Yi to come back, but now that Lin Yi had come back, she was a little embarrassed. Here, Lin Yi said as he handed the bra to Xinyan. I don't want it anymore. It's yours. Xinyan was already embarrassed, and she felt even more embarrassed when Lin Yi handed it back to her. She didn't want it because she was shy, and she didn't want to take it back. That, it's yours, was just something that came out of her mouth, but she regretted it the moment she said it. She was a girl, how could she give a guy a used bra? Wasn't that a little too intimate? What? Lin Yi didn't know what to say. She gave it to him? What did that mean? Lin Yi rubbed his nose as he looked at the bra in his hands. He didn't know what to do with it. Lin Yi knew that he wasn't some kind of underwear thief, nor was he some kind of perverted underwear collector, but the smell of the bra was really nice. Should he keep it? It's nothing, Xinyan said, feeling even more embarrassed at the way he was looking at her bra. She snatched it back and stuffed it into her pocket. Didn't you give it to me? Lin Yi paused, surprised that Xinyan had snatched the bra away. Xinyan stomped her foot angrily. She wanted to stuff Lin Yi's mouth with her own. If it weren't for her own bra, she would have shoved it into Lin Yi's mouth. Would you die if you spoke less? I don't want to give it to you again. Xinyan had no choice but to say it, but things between the two were too intimate. Lin Yi scratched his head, a bitter smile on his face. It's fine if you don't want to send me off. Let's go. Xinyan picked up the clothes she'd changed out of, ready to leave. Wait. Lin Yi stopped her. What's wrong? Xinyan turned her head around, wondering if Lin Yi really wanted her bra. If he insisted, should she give it to him or not? I haven't changed yet. They're all done. If I go back and change, wouldn't I be a monkey? Lin Yi pointed at his clothes. Oh. Xinyan sighed in relief. She felt bad for misunderstanding Lin. She was right. How could he be that kind of pervert? If that were the case, he'd be more than happy to go along with the flow when people mistook her as his girlfriend. He wouldn't even bother explaining himself. Xinyan felt a little guilty and shy at that thought. Then, I'll keep a lookout for you, okay? Lin Yi nodded and jumped into the drain. But Lin Yi was a lot faster than Xinyan. He was done in a blink of an eye. Let's go, I'm done. That fast? Xinyan was surprised. I'm used to it. Lin Yi smiled. I didn't mean it. I heard you yelling and when I turned around, I saw, stop it. Xinyan's face reddened again. She glared at Lin Yi angrily, stomping her foot. I forgot all about it. Lin Yi looked at Xinyan. He wasn't expecting a quiet girl like her to get so worked up. He shrugged. I forgot too. Forget my s. Don't talk about it again. Xinyan humphed. Okay. Lin Yi didn't dare say anything else, since he was in the wrong. The two came to the front of the bungalow to see Bai Weiduo and his classmates sitting in groups of 2s and 3s, resting and chatting. Bai Weiduo rushed over when he saw Xinyan's blushing face. Boss, you're really something, he said in admiration. You're really something, boss. Don't talk nonsense. Lin Yi glared at him. I know. Only Zhao Xingji, Song Xiaodao, and I know. The others don't know. Bai Weiduo smiled, but the others have probably guessed it too. Indeed, when the others saw Xinyan and Lin Yi coming out from the back of the house, they all had an ambiguous look on their faces. This little bastard Lin Yi sure is enjoying life. Such a pretty girl, and he just let her be your cauldron. The yellow hair said with a sigh. I'll let Lin Yi be arrogant for a while. When I become a second-rank refiner, I'll be able to sit in the position of an elder in the House of Yu. I won't be able to send the masters of the House of Yu to kill Lin Yi, but I can do it in secret. Coiling Tiger of the Right hated Lin Yi to the bone. Besides, when I become a second-rank refiner, I'll be able to refine countless pills. I'll be able to make a fortune in the hidden auction. It won't be hard to get the Blood Cloak underworld people to kill him. Yes. The purple hair nodded. Master Yu, you're the one with the foresight. Let this Lin Yi be arrogant for a while. Arrogant? We can't fight him with our strength, but we can use other methods to annoy him and give him some trouble. It'll be fun in school. Coiling Tiger of the Right said. Aren't you afraid that Lin Yi will attack us? The yellow hair thought of Lin Yi and felt a chill down his spine. In Boss Bai's class, he wouldn't be giving face to Boss Bai. If he doesn't give face to Boss Bai, that person from the Sky Elixir sect won't let it go. Knowing Boss Bai's identity, if Lin Yi dares to touch a hair of mine, it'll be suicide. I'd love for him to touch me. Coiling Tiger of the Right sneered. What Boss Bai hates the most is people from families and sects putting on airs in front of him and bullying him. Hiss. The yellow hair and purple hair knew that Boss Bai wasn't simple. Otherwise, why would the hidden House of the Right send Coiling Tiger of the Right to school? But they didn't expect Boss Bai to be this powerful. Even the Sky Elixir sect respected him. Just who was this old man? Lin Yi, naturally, didn't know that Coiling Tiger of the Right was looking for trouble with him again. He saw that everyone in the class was looking at him and Xinyan strangely, so he brought Xinyan back to the terrace house first. Chapter 1909. Xinyan, sister-in-law as strong as Lin Yi was, he couldn't do anything to his classmates. He couldn't just beat them all up, could he? It wasn't until he got back that Lin Yi realized that the bed was already filled with luggage and blankets, but there was an empty space in the innermost part. Evidently, Bai Weiduo had left it for himself and Xinyan. Lin Yi didn't say anything and put his luggage on top of it. Xinyan, on the other hand, sat in the innermost seat, hugging her legs and curled up on the bed. She was silent, not sure what she was thinking. Lin Yi didn't know how to comfort Xinyan. After all, something so embarrassing had happened, and Lin Yi would only make things more awkward. Come take a walk with me, Xinyan said to Lin Yi after a while. All right? Lin Yi didn't ask why, and just nodded in agreement. Anything Xinyan asked for now, Lin Yi would do as long as he could. Of course, this was based on the fact that Lin Yi had a good impression of Xinyan, and that she was a friend. If it were someone random, Lin wouldn't care. Who asked her to be careless? The two left the room, not attracting any attention from their classmates. They were all sitting on the floor, playing cards or chatting. Lin Yi and Xinyan turned to the gutter behind the room. There was no one there. However, the two of them walked halfway when they suddenly stopped their footsteps. There was a moaning sound coming from the gutter. Xinyan's face reddened, and Lin Yi felt a little awkward as well. He, naturally, knew what the sound was and turned to the source. It was probably coming from the gutter behind another row house not too far away. There was a partition between them, and they couldn't see what was going on over there, but it sounded like a couple sprinting. Xinyan couldn't see it, but it was enough to embarrass her. She couldn't help but remember the weird looks her classmates gave her when she and Lin Yi walked out from the back. Why don't we go somewhere else? Lin Yi sighed. These people have good stamina. They haven't eaten lunch, and dinner hasn't started yet. How can they still have the energy to do that? Nah, I'll just sit here for a bit, Xinyan said, afraid that she'd get laughed at again if she left the room. She covered her ears with her hands. All right. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he accompanied Xinyan to sit on the stone steps of the gutter. The wind blew past, and Xinyan's scent was refreshing. Lin Yi felt very comfortable after taking a whiff of it. Lin Yi closed his eyes when Xinyan didn't say anything, starting to enjoy the moment as well. The noise quieted down after a while, and then came the sound of clothes being put on. Lin Yi nudged Xinyan with his wrist. Artie, it's quiet now. That guy's a fast shooter? Xinyan blinked, but quickly understood what Lin Yi was getting at. She glared at Lin. Fast shooter? Was he not fast? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. What was wrong with him? Why was his mouth so fast? Did he just say that to Xinyan like that? Lin Yi hadn't done it on purpose. He'd just been intoxicated by Xinyan's scent, and that was why he'd blurted it out. But Lin Yi hadn't smelled Xinyan's scent in the classroom. What was going on? Could this smell be coming from? Lin Yi looked at Xinyan's chest with a weird expression on his face. There was a bra covering it earlier, and now that it was gone, didn't that mean, what are you looking at? Xinyan jumped when she realized that Lin Yi was staring at her chest. She thought, is Lin Yi going to do something to me after hearing the sounds of the couple next door? Therefore, she subconsciously dodged to the side, but she lost her balance. Her whole body swayed, and she almost fell into the gutter. Lin Yi was shocked. He quickly reached out and grabbed Xinyan's waist, pulling her back. The inertia brought Xinyan into Lin Yi's arms. Xinyan moaned, embarrassed. She tried to push Lin Yi away, but she didn't realize it. Lin Yi didn't use any pure qi, and he was feeling guilty in the first place. With Xinyan's push and pull, they both fell into the gutter. But the moment they fell into the gutter, Lin Yi was afraid that Xinyan would fall, so he held her in his arms. Lin Yi, on the other hand, fell onto the stone floor of the gutter. It hadn't rained for a few days, and there wasn't even a drop of water in the gutter. Lin Yi fell onto the stone floor with a dull thud. Ah dash, Xinyan screamed. She regretted it the moment she fell. Lin Yi wasn't that kind of person, was he? When Lin Yi fell onto the stone floor of the gutter while protecting her, Xinyan regretted it even more. She shouldn't have been so willful. She pressed down on Lin Yi and fell. How could Lin Yi recover? Even if his bones weren't broken, he'd be bruised all over, right? In actuality, Lin Yi was completely fine. He'd covered himself and Xinyan with pure qi the moment they fell, and even if he didn't use it, his skin was thick enough to withstand the fall. He'd survived old Lin's flying kick to the foot of West Star Mountain all those years ago. But Bai Weitua rushed over just as the two fell into the gutter. Big bro Lin? Boss? He'd just received a notice that dinner was about to start, and he was supposed to gather the students at the cafeteria. But Lin Yi and Xinyan were nowhere to be seen, and so Bai Weitua ran to the back of the house to look for them. He was panicking when he saw Xinyan lying on top of Lin Yi, the two of them rolling around. I'm sorry, big brother Lin, sister-in-law Xinyan. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Let's eat. Bai Weitua let out a sigh of relief when he saw that the two of them still had their clothes on. Obviously, the two of them had just started and hadn't reached the next step yet. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing to see the two of them naked? Still, Bai Weitua admired Lin Yi quite a bit. He'd been served by Xinyan's mouth once in the car, and then he'd done it again when they were changing clothes. Now he was going to do it a third time. What a strong man. By way to all, we were just sitting here talking and your sis-in-law Xinyan. Lin Yi awkwardly stood up with Xinyan in his arms, calling her Xinyan's sis-in-law in the back of his mouth. Chapter 1910. The man in the dream. Lin Yi felt quite helpless. Why did he keep making these kinds of stupid mistakes today? These were all kindergarten-level mistakes. He quickly changed his words when he saw the look on Xinyan's face. You're the one who made me fall in, Xinyan. I was trying to pull her up, but I fell in as well. Xinyan's eyes lit up as she looked at Xinyan. Oh, Bai Weituo said with a look of understanding, but anyone could see that he didn't believe him at all. It was no wonder, though. Lin Yi went to pull Xinyan up when she fell down, so why was Lin Yi on the bottom and Xinyan on top? It didn't make sense at all. But in reality, Lin Yi wasn't lying. It was the truth, but no one believed the truth these days. What's with that expression? Lin Yi was speechless. It's nothing, Lin bro. It's nothing, it's just a normal thing. Bai Weituo didn't know why Lin Yi was being shy, but the guy didn't seem like the shy type at all. Alright, lead the way. Lin Yi cut Bai Weituo off when he saw that Xinyan's face was about to bleed. Let's go, the others are ready. Bai Weituo nodded and said nothing more. Xinyan bit her lips. She wanted to complain about Lin Yi, but realized that he'd done it out of kindness. She might have broken herself if he didn't save her. But thinking about it, she wouldn't have dodged if Lin Yi hadn't been staring at her breasts. She got pissed again at that thought. She stomped on Lin Yi's foot and snorted, ignoring Lin Yi as she followed Bai Weituo on her own. Lin Yi stared at Xinyan's back as she stepped on his foot, spacing out a little. It wasn't because of Xinyan's stomp, but because he seemed to remember that there was once a girl who looked at him with this kind of angry eyes before stomping on his foot and running away. Who was this person? Lin Yi frowned. It was just a fleeting feeling, but after thinking about it, he didn't think that there would be such a person. The Miss and Shu wouldn't do something like this, and Xiao Xiao was even more impossible. Who could it be? Could it be the person in my dream? Sometimes, when a person experienced something, they would have a feeling of déjà vu, as if they had experienced it in a dream or in a previous life. This was a very mysterious feeling. Many people had experienced it, but it could not be explained by science. They could only say that they had seen it in a dream. Could it be that he'd seen Wang Xinyan in his dreams? Dreamed of her stepping on him? Looking at the back of the figure walking away, unknowingly, it seemed to overlap with a certain scene in his memory. Perhaps it was really a dream? Lin Yi shook his head and quickly followed. The cafeteria here was huge, several times bigger than the cafeteria in Donghai Industry University. However, it didn't have as many sales windows as the cafeteria in Donghai Industry University. There was only a row of tables here, and on the left of the table were a few big buckets with 3 types of dishes: meat, vegetable, and soup. On the other side of the table were bowls of rice, steamed buns, and flower pots. Under the leadership of the class leaders, the students lined up, each holding a bowl and a bowl of soup. These were the daily necessities given to them during military training. Come here one by one later, there will be people to help you. Take the rice and other staples yourselves, but I hope you'll get into the habit of taking less and taking more. If you can't finish it when you take it back, if it's more than 1/10 of the plate, 1 point will be deducted. Be careful when you take the rice. Don't fight over it. 2 points will be deducted if you spill it. A soldier in charge of the cafeteria explained the rules of eating to the students after they'd gotten into position. The students who'd planned on taking more food immediately gave up when they heard that they'd lose points for leftovers. The points of military training were counted into their credits, and if they didn't have enough credits, they'd have to take other electives in order to graduate. There were a lot of people in the cafeteria, but the soldiers were very orderly. It didn't take long for people to get their plates one by one, and it wasn't long before it was Lin Yi's turn. Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan stood at the back of the line, the last to get food. The soldier had been serving the boys, and when it came to Wang Xinyan, he didn't see it clearly, so he gave her the boys' portion as well. Xinyan was about to ask him to take some back, but she realized that it wouldn't be appropriate to take it back now that she'd already scooped it up. There were students from other classes waiting behind them, too, and so she braced herself and left with him. You don't want the main course? Lin Yi asked curiously, seeing that Xinyan only had a bowl of egg soup. There's a lot of food already. If I add the main course, I'm afraid that there'll be leftovers. Xinyan frowned as she looked at the food on the plate. Oh, it's fine. Lin Yi picked up 2 rolls and put them on Xinyan's plate. These rolls aren't bad, eat some or you'll be hungry tonight. Ah! Xinyan was speechless. 1 roll was already a lot for her, and Lin Yi was giving her 2? I'll eat the rest. Lin Yi was a big eater, and both Meng Yao and Yushu knew that firsthand. But Lin Yi could eat as much as he wanted, and it didn't matter if he didn't eat at all. That was the benefit of being a practitioner. Xinyan blushed in eating her leftovers? Wouldn't that be an indirect kiss? But Lin Yi's expression was normal, and his eyes were clear. Xinyan knew that she was thinking too much. She nodded and found a table with Lin Yi. The two had just sat down when a commotion came from behind them. Lin Yi frowned. He heard a familiar voice in the commotion. It was Bai Weidua's voice. Lin Yi was too lazy to care about other people's business, but Lin Yi couldn't ignore this wretched brat who kept calling him Big Brother Lin. Lin Yi was such a person. Once he decided on a friend, he would take care of it till the end. It didn't matter if it was complicated or simple, whether it was meaningful or not, whether it was a waste of time or not. Xinyan, wait for me here. Bai Weidua is arguing with someone. Lin Yi's expression was a little cold. Oh, be careful, Xinyan said, realizing that she was overthinking things. With Lin Yi's strength, there was no way these students would be able to do anything to him. But, do I care about him? Wang Xinyan rarely cared about other people, especially a guy, but at this moment, she did. It was from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 1911. 72815*= Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Lin Yi nodded and turned to walk towards the scene of the incident. There were already many people there, but Lin Yi was like a fish in water, quickly splitting the crowd and arriving at the center. Fan Ganha, are you doing this on purpose? You knocked my steamed bun to the ground. Do you want me to deduct points? Bai Weidua was so angry that his face turned red. This Fan Ganha was really too much of a bully. After bumping into him, not only did he not apologize, he even had a gloating look on his face. I hit you? How am I supposed to hit you if you don't hit me? You can't even see where you're going, yet you're criticizing others? Fan Ganha sneered. Let me tell you, Bai Weidua, if we hadn't drunk together before, I would have sent you flying to the Pacific Ocean with my fist. Bai Weidua's chest heaved up and down. This Fan Ganha was a gifted student. If they were to really fight, the one at a disadvantage would definitely be him, Bai Weidua. However, the steamed bun fell to the ground. Bai Weidua was unwilling to lose 2 points for no reason. You can pick it up. If you pick it up and eat it, you won't have to deduct points. Zhang Duopan's voice sounded from the side. It seemed like he was speaking up for Bai Weidua, but wasn't it also insulting him? Oh, that's right. You can pick it up and eat it. Then you won't have to deduct any points. Fan Ganha kicked the 2 steamed buns on the ground. The 2 steamed buns rolled on the ground at Bai Weidua's feet. The already dirty steamed buns became even dirtier. Bai Weidua wanted to smash the plate in his hand on Fan Ganha's face, but he knew that he couldn't do that. If he did, it wouldn't be as simple as a deduction of 2 points. It would be a violation of the rules, and he would definitely be sent back to school by the instructor. He might even lose his military training credits. What happened to us? Everyone knows that every grain of food on the plate is hard work. Don't waste it, we have to be diligent and thrifty. Fan Ganha looked at Bai Weidua mockingly. Last time at the KTV, Bai Weidua and Lin Yi made Zhang Duopan and Fan Ganha lose face. Naturally, the two of them were unwilling to give up and wanted to find an opportunity to take revenge on Bai Weidua. After hearing about the food discipline, they knew that the opportunity had come. Bai Weidua took a deep breath. He was prepared to pick up the 2 steamed buns on the ground first. If he left them on the plate and didn't eat them, he would lose 1 point at most. If he threw them on the ground, he would lose 2 points. This was a matter of academic credits, so he was prepared to bear with it. However, just as Bai Weiduo was about to bend down to pick up the 2 steamed buns on the ground, a hand beat him to it. The owner of this hand was Lin Yi. Lin Yi grabbed the 2 steamed buns from the ground and rubbed them against the soles of his shoes under the astonished gazes of the crowd before standing up. Issue. Zhang Duopan was baffled, Fan Ganhe was baffled, and even Bai Weiduo was baffled. They didn't know what Lin Yi meant by this. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhang Duopan and Fan Ganhe. He smiled slightly, then suddenly reached out and pinched Zhang Duopan's cheeks, and directly stood on top of it. If equals, Shuhai Pavilion, net the dirty steamed buns covered in dust and the mud from the soles of Lin Yi's shoes were stuffed into Zhang Duopan's mouth. Ugh, Zhang Duopan didn't expect Lin Yi to actually stuff the steamed bun into his mouth. He struggled with all his might to close his mouth, but Lin Yi's strength on his cheeks was too great. Zhang Duopan could only watch as Lin Yi stuffed the dirty steamed bun into his mouth. Who knows that every grain on a plate is hard work? Since you're so afraid of wasting food, then you can eat it. Lin Yi said expressionlessly. He didn't forget to pinch Zhang Duopan's throat and let the steamed bun enter his esophagus. Cough, ugh. Zhang Duopan pinched his throat and coughed violently. The steamed bun was so stuck that he couldn't breathe, and his face turned purple. Your mother, you don't want to live anymore, do you? Fan Ganhe was stunned by Lin Yi's actions. When Zhang Duopan coughed, he finally reacted. He pointed at Lin Yi and said angrily, "You're courting death." However, before he could finish, Lin Yi casually waved his hand and stuffed another dirty steamed bun into Fan Ganhe's mouth. His words also became ugh. Bai Weiduo and the surrounding students stared blankly at Lin. They didn't expect Lin Yi to be so ruthless. Only Yupanhu laughed coldly. It seemed that Lin didn't dare to go too far. With Lin Yi's personality, he would have just killed anyone who messed with him. Why would he go through the trouble of teaching someone a lesson? In reality, Lin Yi wouldn't just randomly kill people in the school. It was Yupanhu who misunderstood. What's going on? What happened? A voice sounded. It was the head instructor, Chen Yutian. Naturally, someone went to inform head instructor Chen Yutian about the conflict. Cough cough, wah. Zhang Duopan coughed again and finally spat out the dirty steamed bun. He almost choked to death. Fan Ganhe, on the other hand, dug out the steamed bun with his fingers for a long time before throwing it away. He was panting heavily. Bai Weiduo's face paled when he saw how big the situation was. He didn't expect things to escalate to this extent. Although he was grateful for Lin Yi's help, he was also worried that he'd implicated Lin Yi. He was only supposed to get his points deducted, but now Lin Yi was in trouble. Instructor Chen, these 2 people were too greedy. They choked and vomited. Lin Yi pointed at Fan Ganhe and Zhang Duopan. Looks like they're wasting food. Shouldn't we deduct their points? Everyone at the scene was flabbergasted. Lin Yi was lying through his teeth. Wasting food. Deduct 2 points from these 2. Chen Yutian glanced at Fan Ganhe and Zhang Duopan and said faintly, "Wah." Zhang Duopan panicked. He didn't expect to get his points deducted. Head instructor, it's him. He forced the steamed bun into my mouth. Oh, why did he force it into your mouth? Chen Yutian asked. Zhang Duopan didn't know what to say. He was the one who made Fan Ganhe do that, so he couldn't explain himself. But since Chen Yutian asked, he could only force himself to say, because these 2 steamed buns fell on the ground. It was him, Bai Weiduo, who dropped them. We came to persuade him not to waste food, but this Lin Yi picked them up and stuffed them into our mouths. Tisk. Zhang Duopan's words attracted a wave of disgust from the students. They'd seen everything with their own eyes, after all, and if they were to say that Lin Yi was lying through his teeth, then these 2 were twisting the facts to make a deer out of a horse. Oh, how did you persuade him? Chen Yutian continued. Target equals, underestimate. Chapter 1912. 72815 *= Chapter 1924. Late autumn night. Chen Yutian knew that Lin Yi wasn't someone who liked to cause trouble. He wouldn't provoke others unless they provoked him, so Chen Yutian knew that this wasn't Lin Yi's fault. But Zhang Duopan didn't expect Chen Yutian to ask so many questions. They kicked the steamed buns twice and let Bai Weiduo pick them up and eat them. Song Xiaodao said from the side. Is that so? Chen Yutian turned to Zhang Duopan and Fan Ganhe. This. The two of them knew that with so many classmates watching, it was absolutely impossible for them to lie at this moment. They could only stammer and not dare to admit it. Wasting food and causing trouble, both of you, I'll deduct 4 points each. Chen Yutian turned and left after finishing his sentence. Fan Ganhe and Zhang Duopan regretted it for a while. If they had known this would happen, they wouldn't have explained it. Now that they had explained it, 2 more points were deducted. What was this? Bai Weiduo found it strange that Chen Yutian seemed to be siding with him, but he was the victim, so he didn't think too much about it. He laughed happily. Justice is in everyone's heart. Some people just shot themselves in the foot. Let's see who's better at the freshman's party. Zhang Duopan pulled Fan Ganhe along. The two of them left some harsh words and quickly left. They couldn't afford to lose face like this. After Zhang Duopan and Fan Ganhe left, Bai Weiduo patted Lin Yi's shoulder and said excitedly, "Big brother Lin, you're so cool. Let's go eat." Lin Yi said with a smile. Xinyan, on the other hand, couldn't help but cover her mouth and smile at the scene. This Lin Yi really was a violent maniac, wasn't he? At another table not far away, Mei looked at Zhang Duopan with some disappointment. In the past, she felt that Zhang Duopan was a good person. Although she didn't have a good impression of him, she didn't have any bad impression of him either. However, what Zhang Duopan did today was simply disgusting. Although Bai Weiduo's previous performance was somewhat cowardly, Mei did not feel that he was cowardly. Fan Ganhe was a gifted student. Ordinary students were not his match. Bai Weiduo was simply asking for a beating. As for Lin, Mei shook her head. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover. Who would have thought that a gentleman would be so violent? Of course, Mei didn't care about Lin Yi at all. He didn't admit to his relationship with Xinyan, but she could tell from the way he sat next to her that their relationship wasn't normal. Although this small episode was intense, it subsided quickly. Everyone was hungry. Moreover, this was the army, and there were very strict rules, so everyone found a place to eat. However, what happened just now made them relish in talking about it. After the meal, the students all returned to their own barracks. It was 6 o'clock sharp, and they were all in front of their barracks. After the medicine class, Chen Yutian appeared in front of everyone very quickly. Reporting, instructor. I am the class monitor, Bai Weiduo. Please instruct me. Bai Weiduo stepped out. Very good, Bai Weiduo is back. Chen Yutian nodded, satisfied. Tomorrow will be the start of your official military training. The 1st to 3rd days will be marching, and formation training. The 4th to 6th days will be military boxing training, and the 7th to 8th days will be field training. After the 8th day, there will be formation, military boxing, and kickboxing. The winning class and individual will be rewarded with 5 to 10 credits. No one expected that other than the normal credits, there would be bonus credits as well. It was quite a lot too, from 5 to 10. Don't be too happy yet. Only the top 3 of each competition will be rewarded, whether it's a group or individual. Chen Yutian said faintly. The field training is based on faculties, but the first 3 groups to return from each class will be rewarded with 2 credits each. College credits were both difficult and easy to obtain. Many elective courses such as etiquette, social interaction, and so on were easy to obtain. However, sometimes, one would still lack some credits before graduation. It would be difficult to take those courses that one had not taken before, especially for students who chose double majors. Credits were even more important. So, if they could get more credits at this time, no one would complain about it. After Chen Yutian finished his lecture, he led the students to do a few simple movements in front of the barracks. For example, at ease, attention, turn left, turn right, and so on. These were all things they learned in middle school, so it wasn't hard at all. It was just a warm-up. Then, Chen Yutian led the students to jog a few rounds around the barracks before dismissing them. The first day's training wasn't much, but it was still too much for the students to handle. They collapsed on their beds after returning to the barracks. Right Pan Hu, Yellow Hair, and Purple Hair were on the other side of the bed. These three were the oddballs, and it was obvious that they weren't easy to get along with. The students in the class didn't provoke them, and they didn't want to talk to anyone either. On the other side of the bed, Book C Pavilion, on the other side were Lin Yi and Xinyan. Xinyan was lying quietly beside Lin. She was wearing clothes, but she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Rest early, we have to wake up at 6 tomorrow morning, Lin Yi said after looking at the time. Yeah. Xinyan snuck a peek at the calm Lin Yi, feeling a little nervous. This was the first time she'd shared a bed with a boy. She was wearing clothes, and it was military training too, but Xinyan couldn't help but feel a little nervous. It was fine when the lights were on, but now that the power was off, she was a little nervous. What are you thinking about, eyes wide open? Lin Yi asked with a smile. Xinyan still hadn't rested after a while. You can see me? Xinyan was a little surprised. There was no light in the barracks at night, and it was pitch black outside the window. Only the faint moonlight shone in from a window not far away, but it was very weak. She couldn't see what was going on in the barracks. Your eyes are so bright I can see you. Lin Yi couldn't help but tease. Xinyan pursed her lips, not knowing what to say. After a while, she harumphed. Nonsense, I'm not a wolf. But go to sleep, Lin Yi said before closing his eyes. Xinyan waited for a while, and seeing that Lin Yi wasn't talking anymore, she fell asleep as well. Late autumn nights were very cold. Everyone was wearing thick camouflage clothing, but there were no blankets. It was still a little chilly. Target _ blank. Chapter 1913. Date: October 11th. Xinyan was only wearing a tank top under her camouflage fatigue. It was only natural for her to feel cold, and so she subconsciously searched for warmth, burrowing into Lin Yi's arms. It was very warm here. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the sleeping Wang Xinyan in his arms out of nowhere. Lin Yi hadn't slept at all. He'd closed his eyes to train in the Jade Space. Ever since he'd learned the secrets of the Jade Space, Lin Yi hadn't slept at all. His perception of the outside world was still very strong, and so when Xinyan ran into his arms, Lin Yi sensed it immediately. Lin Yi shook his head and came out of the Jade Space. He wanted to push Xinyan away, but he didn't want to let her go. Hugging Xinyan gave him a peace of mind, and Lin Yi couldn't help but fall into a trance as he took in the faint scent of Xinyan's body. The scent made Lin Yi very comfortable, and so Lin Yi couldn't help but sniff a few more times. All of a sudden he felt a heat in his abdomen, and Lin Yi jumped in fright. Did he have some sort of feelings for Xinyan? If that were the case, it'd be very awkward if Xinyan found out. At that thought, Lin Yi hurriedly channeled the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, trying to dispel the fire in his body. But as soon as Lin Yi's chi touched the fire in his abdomen, Lin Yi was confused. This wasn't that kind of fire. Lin Yi could tell if it was because of him, but if that wasn't the case, then could this heat be because of Xinyan's fragrance? But no matter what the reason was, Lin Yi didn't dare to delay, and had already started to use his pure chi to dissolve that ball of fire. But in the next moment, Lin Yi was surprised to find that after the ball of fire was dissolved, it seemed to have become pure chi that filled his body, and his strength was also continuously increasing. After the ball of fire was dissolved, Lin Yi's strength actually had an obvious increase. Although he still hadn't reached the barrier of Earth-class early phase peak in Chapter 1925, he was getting closer and closer to that barrier. Lin Yi was very puzzled. Why was his strength increasing? Moreover, this speed was clearly faster than just channeling the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. It wasn't by much, but it was fast. Lin Yi could feel it. Perhaps it really was because of the fragrance on Xinyan's body? Lin Yi frowned, secretly surprised. But since he found such a good opportunity, he didn't want to waste it. It wasn't easy to get a chance to share a bed with Xinyan. Of course he'd want to absorb more of this fragrance to train. Otherwise, Xinyan might not agree to it when he got back to school. Lin Yi didn't sleep that night, and his body kept channeling the art of dragon mastery until dawn. Xinyan was a bit cold in the middle of the night, and naturally went to find warmth. She opened her eyes in the morning to find herself in Lin Yi's arms. She was a bit surprised, but then she saw that Lin Yi wasn't hugging her, but she was hugging Lin. Xinyan was relieved, but also embarrassed. Lin Yi didn't do anything to her, but she threw herself into his arms. How shameless! If Lin Yi saw this, what would Lin Yi think? With that thought, Xinyan tried to get out of Lin Yi's arms. She sneaked a glance at Lin Yi, and realized that Lin Yi's eyes were closed. She quickly moved her body inwards, but Lin Yi felt it. Lin Yi hadn't slept at all, he'd been training the whole time, and so he spoke subconsciously. Xinyan, you're awake? Xinyan didn't expect Lin Yi to wake up earlier than her. Was Lin Yi pretending to be asleep with his eyes closed? This guy was trying to take advantage of her when he was awake. Xinyan suddenly remembered that if Lin Yi wanted to take advantage of her, he could have just hugged her. Why did he have to do this? Xinyan understood after a bit of thought. Lin Yi probably didn't want to disturb her, seeing that she was sleeping soundly. Even so, Xinyan still felt embarrassed. I was a bit cold last night. It's fine, I don't mind being a heater. Lin Yi really didn't mind. Lin Yi had a good impression of Xinyan in the first place, and now that Xinyan's scent was good for his training, Lin Yi didn't mind at all. In fact, he liked it. I'm up. Xinyan quickly got out of bed, seeing that the conversation was getting more and more intimate. In fact, there were a lot of students who woke up at this time, but it was still early. There was still some time before 6, so they wanted to rest a bit more. Xinyan went to the washroom to wash her face, and Lin Yi got up as well. Bai Weidua saw that someone was up, and he, as the class monitor, couldn't stay in bed. But since Lin Yi and Xinyan were the first to wake up, Bai Weidua didn't find it embarrassing at all. Woo woo woo, a loud wake-up call sounded. It was 5:50, and they were ready. All the students in the barracks ran out and lined up in front of the barracks. Chen Yutian showed up at 6 sharp, and the day's training began. The training for the first 3 days was simple. It was what they had practiced in middle and high school, marching, changing lines, and so on. Although it was tiring, they could still persist. No more unpleasantness happened in the cafeteria. With Zhang Duopan and Fan Ganha as an example, no one dared to cause any more trouble. As for how Chen Yutian handled the two, other than Zhang Duopan and Fan Ganha who were a little dissatisfied, the others didn't think that Chen Yutian was unfair. Although Lin Yi was a little harsh, he was still standing up for his classmate. In everyone's eyes, it was an act of brotherhood. Since they weren't punished, it meant that Chen Yutian was an open-minded instructor. In fact, if it weren't for Lin Yi, Chen Yutian would have punished them as well. But since it was related to Lin Yi, he was biased. What made Lin Yi disappointed was that he didn't see Meng Yao and Yushu in the cafeteria. Book C Pavilion. This wasn't the only cafeteria. Perhaps the students from the economics faculty were sent to other cafeterias, and they didn't meet. This kind of intense training was nothing to Lin Yi. What made Lin Yi the happiest was sleeping with Wang Xinyan every night. It wasn't that Lin Yi was lustful, but the fragrance on Wang Xinyan's body could speed up Lin Yi's training. 3 days. 3 days of training was equivalent to half a month of training for Lin Yi. Chapter 1914. Although Lin Yi's mastery of the second stage of the art of dragon mastery was partly due to this, Wang Xinyan's scent played an important role. Although Wang Xinyan would hug Lin Yi every morning, it was a little awkward, but as time went by, the awkwardness faded away. Now, Wang Xinyan wasn't as shy as before because Lin Yi didn't take advantage of her, and she didn't do it on purpose. There was no need for the two of them to be awkward. Just like what Lin Yi said, the two of them were good friends. From the 4th day onwards, it was military boxing. Military boxing. Most of the students had heard of this name, but they had never practiced it. After all, there were Muay Thai, Sanda, Taekwondo, and even Tai Chi in the martial arts training classes, but there were very few that taught military boxing. They were curious about this boxing technique that everyone in the military practiced. Only Yu Coiling Tiger had a disdainful smile on his face. Military boxing, although it sounds ordinary, is a boxing technique that every soldier in the army knows. Many people think that it's only for strengthening their bodies. Chen Yutian paused for a moment before continuing. Military boxing can strengthen your body, but it's also a very practical fighting style. It's very effective when you're fighting with your enemies in close combat. Not to mention normal soldiers, even the special forces might use military boxing when fighting against enemies. So, if you practice military boxing well, it will guarantee your safety in the future. If you can use military boxing well when you meet an enemy, you won't have a problem protecting yourself, even if you can't kill the bad guys. These words made the students present look forward to it. Yes, if they could learn this fist technique well, wouldn't they not be taken advantage of by the bad guys when they encountered danger in the future? Even Lin Yi nodded in agreement. Military boxing was a set of martial arts that had been tempered by countless elite soldiers. Chen Yutian wasn't exaggerating at all. At this moment, someone laughed untimely as if he was very disdainful of Chen Yutian's words. Who laughed just now? Is there anything wrong? Chen Yutian's face darkened. He didn't expect such a student to exist. Sir, I've seen him before. There's someone in our class who's very strong as well. Your military boxing might not be his match. The one who spoke was the blonde, Tiger Right's follower, the one Lin Yi had taught a lesson to. Previously, when Pan Huyu saw Lin Yi's actions in the cafeteria, he guessed that Lin Yi did not dare to cause trouble on campus, so he began to carry out his plan. He had Huang Mao create some trouble for Lin Yi to disgust Lin. It would be best if Lin Yi could deduct some credits so that he could suffer in silence. This was the highest level of pranking people. Oh, who are you talking about? Chen Yutian frowned as he looked at the blonde's hair color. A trace of disgust flashed through his eyes. This guy was probably a gangster, doing whatever he wanted in school just because his family was rich. However, this was the military, not a school. Naturally, Chen Yutian wouldn't let him do whatever he wanted. It's Lin Yi, he's a martial arts master. Huang Mao pointed at Lin Yi's direction. Oh, how do you know he's a martial arts master? Are you one too? Chen Yutian asked. Huang Mao didn't expect Chen Yutian to point his spear at him. He was caught off guard. Right Coiling Tiger furrowed his brows. He had been feeling proud of his plan. After all, now that he'd said that, it would be difficult for Lin Yi to decide whether to accept the challenge or not. From Tiger Right's point of view, it would be easy for Lin Yi to defeat this instructor with his strength, but if he defeated the instructor, wouldn't he lose face? Would Lin Yi be able to do well in the military training in the future? Even if the instructor didn't hold a grudge against Lin Yi would still be reprimanded by the school when he returned. But if Lin Yi admitted defeat on purpose, with his strength that could even defeat an Earth-class master, wouldn't it be a very frustrating thing to admit defeat to a normal instructor? If he didn't accept the challenge, Lin Yi would be disobeying orders. Disobeying orders in military training would also result in points deduction. However, Tiger Right didn't expect that the conflict would be shifted back to the blonde. I'm asking you a question. How do you know that Lin Yi is a master? Chen Yutian yelled at the blonde. The blonde didn't know how to explain. Since you know that he's a master, then I see that you're a master as well. Come, fight me and show us military boxing. Chen Yutian knew that the blonde didn't have any good intentions. He wanted to teach him a lesson so that he wouldn't stop. Even if the blonde wasn't against Lin Yi, Chen Yutian didn't have a good impression of him with his gangster outfit. Even if he could not graduate, it did not matter. He was just a guest in the Yu family. His education was of no use to him. Hence, the yellow hair chuckled. I can go, but instructor, let's make this clear first. What if I win your military boxing? The yellow hair man was slightly stunned, but he was not afraid. He was here to accompany his young master to study. Yu Coiling Tiger cared about credits, but the yellow hair did not care. Even if he could not graduate, it did not matter. Win? What do you say? Chen Yutian didn't expect the blonde to dare to raise a condition. He focused his eyes and wanted to see where the blonde got his confidence from. Unfortunately, Chen Yutian didn't have the foresight that Lin Yi had. Internal martial arts experts would only reveal their true strength when they were circulating their innate qi. If they did not deliberately reveal their true strength, then they would only reveal their true strength in battle or when they were using qigong movement techniques. Physical masters didn't have true energy in their body. They could only use their strong physique to activate the true energy in nature. Therefore, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to see their true strength if they didn't make a move. If I win, the three of us won't participate in the military training anymore. But you have to give us full marks for the military training, and you have to give us bonus points as well. The blonde pointed at him, tiger right, and purple hair. Fine. Although it's against the rules, I'll still agree to it. Since you can't beat me, I'll show you what military boxing is. Chen Yutian laughed coldly. Hey, remember what you said? The blonde laughed and started to activate his incantation. In an instant, the strength of the early phase of the mystic class was revealed. Chen Yutian's eyes flashed with surprise. He didn't expect a gangster to be a master of the early phase of the mystic class. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1915. Of course, Chen Yutian didn't put him in his eyes. He was a master at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class, and his strength had been stabilized. Why would he be afraid of the yellow hair? Attack me, you can use all kinds of moves. I'll only use military boxing. Chen Yutian pretended not to see the yellow hair's strength and said indifferently. The yellow hair sneered in his heart. Pretending? It seems like you don't even know what a cultivator is, and you want to beat me with military boxing? Even if you practice military boxing to the extreme, you're still a normal person. The difference between you and a cultivator is like heaven and earth. Remember what you said. The yellow hair didn't say much and swung his fist. Of course, he was afraid that he would kill Chen Yutian with one punch, so he only used the strength of the early phase of the golden class to teach Chen Yutian a lesson. Bang! The blonde's fist landed on Chen Yutian's arm, and Chen Yutian's move was a defensive move in the military boxing. The yellow hair thought that even if he couldn't break Chen Yutian's arm, he would at least send him flying. However, Chen Yutian didn't move an inch, and the yellow hair retreated a few steps under Chen Yutian's defense, falling on his butt. Seeing the yellow-haired guy sitting on the ground, all the students present burst into laughter. This guy was so arrogant at the beginning. He even wanted the instructor to exempt them from military training. Not only that, he even wanted extra points. Who did he think he was? Chen Yutian didn't want to hurt the yellow hair, so he controlled his strength to the peak of the early phase of the mystic class, suppressing the yellow hair. One had to know that the difference between an earth class and an earth class was one level, and they could kill their opponent. So Chen Yutian only used military boxing to defend and didn't attack the yellow hair, wanting him to back off. But the yellow hair was too careless. If he used his full strength, he wouldn't fall on his but like this, even if he couldn't do anything to Chen Yutian. Peak of the early phase of the mystic class. The yellow hair looked at Chen Yutian in disbelief. Since when were there so many cultivators? One had to know that he was from a hidden house, and that was why he had the strength of a mystic class. Chen Yutian was just a military instructor, and yet he was stronger than him? Right Coiling Tiger and Purple Hair were practitioners as well. They couldn't see through Chen Yutian's strength before, and they'd be idiots if they still couldn't. Right Coiling Tiger's face changed. Yellow Hair, come back. Purple Hair, you go. Yes. The purple-haired man nodded. He was a mid-phase mystic class master, a head above Chen Yutian, so he agreed without hesitation. I didn't expect Instructor Chen to be a master. Since that's the case, I'll take 2 of your attacks for my brother. Purple Hair stood up and said to Chen Yutian indifferently. Oh, since you're here, then come. Look carefully. If you meet these little hoodlums in the future, be like me, and you won't be bullied by them. Chen Yutian used these 2 as examples to explain to the students. The purple-haired man was pissed. He was a mid-phase mystic class master, not a hoodlum. But this wasn't the time to talk, and Chen Yutian didn't point out his name. The purple-haired man could only hold it in for now. He'd defeat Chen Yutian later, and that would be the best way to retaliate. Yes, Instructor Chen. We're watching carefully. The student said. Peak of the early phase mystic class, is that strong? The purple-haired man sneered at Chen Yutian. He activated his internal arts, revealing his strength as a mid-phase mystic class master. Come, continue to attack me. Chen Yutian glanced at the purple-haired man, and he was even more shocked. There was a mid-phase mystic class? What kind of class was this? There were hidden dragons and crouching tigers. But compared to an Earth-class master like Lin Yi, these people were too weak. Huh. The purple-haired man froze. This Chen Yutian was only at the peak of the early phase mystic class, but he wasn't afraid of him, a mid-phase mystic class master, and even asked him to attack him. Was he an idiot? A high-level master attacking an Earth-class master, wasn't that a one-sided attack? Hurry up, don't waste everyone's time. Chen Yutian looked at the purple-haired man impatiently. The purple-haired man was pissed. He snorted coldly and kicked towards Chen Yutian. Since Chen Yutian was a master at the peak of the early phase mystic class, the purple-haired man didn't need to hold back anymore. He would use his full strength and injure Chen Yutian. He was at the peak of the early phase mystic class anyways, and he wouldn't die. The purple-haired man wanted Chen Yutian to suffer in silence. He was the one who asked him to attack. Even if he injured Chen Yutian, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. He was the one who agreed to the conditions of winning. However, when the purple-haired man kicked, Chen Yutian also used a military boxing to win. But what shocked the purple-haired man was that Chen Yutian wasn't a master at the peak of the early phase mystic class. He was clearly at the peak of the late phase mystic class. The purple-haired man regretted it, but it was too late. The moment his foot touched Chen Yutian's fist, he flew backwards. The distance he flew was much further than the yellow-haired man. He flew to the edge of the training ground and landed heavily on the ground, screaming in pain. Ouch! This was the result of Chen Yutian holding back. Otherwise, with Chen Yutian's strength, killing the purple-haired man was as easy as playing with a toy. Wah! The students at the scene immediately gasped in surprise, followed by thunderous applause. Chen Yutian's move was too cool. It looked like an ordinary move, but it had such power. It was like a stunt scene in a martial arts movie. A normal person's punch could only knock someone down, but this kind of punch could send someone flying so far away. Ordinary people couldn't even see it. It was something that could only be seen in movies. Chen Yutian's punch could only be seen in movies. But now, it happened in front of everyone's eyes. It turned out that those scenes in the movie were not a lie to attract attention, but in fact, there really was such a powerful person who could do it. Yellow hair, purple hair, right coiling tiger, you've violated the rules. Run 100 laps around the barracks or you can't have lunch. Chen Yutian glanced at right coiling tiger. He knew that these three were in cahoots. Since the yellow-haired man and the purple-haired man weren't ordinary people, this right coiling tiger was probably a practitioner as well. Running 100 laps wasn't a big deal. Yes. The yellow-haired man, the purple-haired man, and right coiling tiger were furious, but they didn't dare to act rashly. This instructor was actually a master at the peak of the late phase mystic class. In front of such a master, they couldn't fight back. Seeing the three running laps, the students at the scene burst into laughter. Target equals, underestimate. Chapter 1916. Field Training. Alright, everyone has seen the power of military boxing. Now, are you guys willing to learn from me? Chen Yutian asked. After witnessing Chen Yutian's power with their own eyes, who wouldn't be willing to learn? In fact, military boxing was indeed powerful, but it depended on the person using it. If Chen Yutian wasn't a mystic class master, he wouldn't be able to send someone flying with just one punch. However, Chen Yutian was more than happy to use this method to motivate the students. Seeing was believing. His fight with the blonde and purple hair was more convincing than any explanation. He believed that the medical major would be one of the classes that studied military boxing the most seriously. Under Chen Yutian's guidance, everyone practiced enthusiastically. Even Wang Xinyan was sweating from exhaustion, but she was still very serious. Fuck, Master Yu, why are we so unlucky? The blonde said helplessly as he ran. This is weird, any instructor is a mystic class master. Mystic class masters are so worthless. You coiling tiger frowned, but a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Let's run, we'll teach that Linny a lesson when we get back. I thought that boss Bai wouldn't be around during the military training, and I wanted to disgust Linny a little. What a lucky bastard, the purple hair said. However, as soon as the purple hair finished speaking, Chen Yutian scolded, "What are you three mumbling about? You seem to be very energetic? Add another 100 laps." Chen Yutian glanced at you coiling tiger. Although this guy was only a golden class master, running a few 100 laps wouldn't tire him out, so he added another 100 laps for them. You coiling tiger and the others groaned in their hearts, but there was nothing they could do. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. The next program was field training. This was one of the most important programs in the military training, and it was also the toughest training. This was a test of everyone's ability to survive in the wild. Early in the morning, a few buses brought all the biology students to the foot of a mountain about 50 kilometers away from the army camp. This was a nameless mountain range, not far from the border. The training this time was for 3 people to form a group and go up the mountain to find a small flag at a designated location. Because each flag was placed in a different position, each flag had a GPS positioning device, and each team would be randomly given a GPS receiver. Only by following the coordinates on the receiver could they find the flag, and the first 3 teams to find the flag would each receive 2 extra points as a reward. The training would last for 2 days, starting from this morning and ending tomorrow night. The teams that did not find the flag would only have 1 military training credit deducted. Although this training looked very simple, with the GPS coordinates indicating, how difficult would it be to actually find it? This mountain was not a tourist attraction. There were no ready-made paths at all. Although the mountain walls were not steep, the forest was still covered with jungles. It was obviously not an easy task to pass through the layers of jungles to find the target. Moreover, the location of each flag was different. There was no chance of working together in such a big mountain. They could only rely on the 2 people in the same team to find the flag. Chen Yutian taught the students some essential knowledge of survival in the wild. Although there weren't any beasts on the mountain, most of the students grew up in the city. They didn't have any survival experience in the wild. It would be bad if something happened. However, just in case, Chen Yutian still had a backup plan. There's a red switch behind this GPS coordinate device. This is an emergency warning switch. If you guys really meet with danger on the mountain, just flip this switch, and we will know your coordinates. The rescue team will rush to the scene immediately. Chen Yutian said, "Of course, if you don't meet with danger and just randomly flip the switch, I will also cancel your points for this field training. I hope everyone can cooperate with each other, and the 3 of you must learn to support each other. I don't want any of you to fall behind. If any of you fall behind, no matter if you find the flag or not, your points will be deducted directly." Everyone was worried when they heard that they had to go up the mountain alone to find the flag, but with this emergency switch, there was no problem. As for falling behind, no one thought about it. No one could leave their classmate behind. Alright, next, students from all classes form groups of 3. Come here to collect the GPS, compressed biscuits, drinking water, medical kit, and camping supplies, Chen Yutian said. The number of people in Lin Yi's class wasn't a multiple of 3. There were 2 extra people, so Lin Yi didn't hesitate and formed a group with Xinyan. Normally, they would find an extra student from another class to form a group, but Chen Yutian knew how strong Lin Yi was. Lin Yi could carry Xinyan up the mountain without a problem, so he agreed without hesitation. After all the groups had collected their things, everyone prepared to go up the mountain under Chen Yutian's orders. However, not long after they went up the mountain, they didn't have anyone in the same direction. Their flags weren't in the same position, and they were scattered all over the place. The mountain was big and tall, and very few people were willing to take detours with others. Most of them chose the straight distance on the GPS. However, on a mountain like this, even if it was a straight distance, it was impossible to walk in a straight line. After all, there were some rocks and trees that had to be detoured. Xinyan was a little embarrassed as she looked at Lin Yi carrying all the luggage, Lin E, can you share some of this with me? Most groups had 3 guys, and there wasn't much to share even if there was more, but Lin Yi's group was small to begin with, and Xinyan was a girl, so the heavy burden fell on Lin Yi's shoulders. It's fine, these aren't heavy at all. Just maintain your stamina. If you collapse from exhaustion, I'll have to carry you as well, won't that be more tiring? Lin Yi smiled. Oh. Xinyan blushed a little. She didn't know why, but she was looking forward to it. She didn't know when it started, but Xinyan was getting used to the feeling of Lin Yi beside her. It had only been a few days, but she felt like she was relying on him. Xinyan didn't know if this feeling was good or bad, but she didn't reject it. It was the first time in her life that she was this close to a boy. She was surprised that she didn't hate Lin Yi at all. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.